A police helicopter hovers over a hospital building and locks their target. The policemen on the ground surround the entrance while they tell the kidnapper to release the hostage. The man warns them not to move or he will kill his hostage. The sniper remains at the vantage point and confirms that he is confident to kill the kidnapper without hurting the hostage. Luke, a terminally ill patient, mocks the man for his rookie moves. The kidnapper tells Luke to shut up, while the SWAT team proceed to Plan B after he uses his hostage as cover. Luke suggests for the man to hide in the corner quickly and close all windows to defend himself against the assault team, which only annoys the assailant. The kidnapper follows his suggestions anyway. The SWAT team thinks about their next move carefully since the man possesses something very important. The man looks through the window and calls the SWAT team dog with a good nose. He suspects that they already know about the item that he is hiding. Luke mocks the kidnapper, who is obviously in trouble. He points his gun to Luke and threatens to kill him. With a smirk, he tells the kidnapper to take a good look around, prompting the criminal to ask him where they are. A sign on the wall reveals the place as the hospice class. Luke calmly explains that those in late stages here have at most 2 months to live. The kidnapper clenches his jaw in frustration. Sitting casually, Luke says death threats don't work on someone already dying, and then he asks a question. Luke questions what the kidnapper is hiding in his arms, catching the criminal off guard. Luke strikes suddenly as he throws a pillow to the kidnapper. He grabs the man by force, landing a sharp strike to the man's head. Luke then catches the man's arm mid-struggle, twisting the grunt away with calm precision. Luke flips the man over his shoulder with overwhelming force. He slams him into the ground without hesitation. The kidnapper asks if he was lied to. Luke stands over him and confirms he won't live long, but it doesn't matter. Kneeling down, he grips the man's collar and scolds him for wasting 7 minutes and 28 seconds of his time. Holding up a small box, he mocks the man for hiding it and attracting so much attention. The man panics and begs him to give it back. With a wicked grin, Luke opens the box, which suddenly glows. He looks intrigued by what he sees as data swirls around him. The man yells in horror and reaches out in vain. The system suddenly appears, announcing that Luke's registration as a traverser is complete. Surrounded by radiant energy, Luke asks what the strange sound is. The man warns in panic that the otherworldly item belonged to someone important named the Third Elder. Unbothered, Luke kicks him across the face and says he's going to die anyway. He kneels down to get the gun and demands a proper explanation about the otherworld account. He threatens him that he will meet his maker if he doesn't cooperate. The man looks terrified and agrees to speak. In the year 2050, a mysterious meteor shower reshaped the world. Soon after, terrifying monsters began to appear. A rare few gained the power to travel to other worlds and face dangerous trials before returning. Those who survived the trials earned powerful items, elixirs, and weapons beyond human understanding. The rise of these traversers disrupted global order, leading others to hunt them for secret. After much conflict, people learned that the Otherworld account marks its owner and sends them to the Otherworld in 15 minutes. These marked individuals came to be known as traversers. A countdown begins as the timer hits 59 seconds. The door bursts open with a loud crash. Armed soldiers rush in, shouting commands to release the hostage. One of them looks ahead, wide-eyed at the scene inside. They see the kidnapper tied to a chair and sobbing. A screen appears, warning that Traverser Luke's trial will begin in 1 minute. Luke, holding the countdown device, recalls that time in the other world passes differently. Standing on a rooftop, he notes that only clothes close to the body can be taken into the trial, so weapons are useless. He sees the kidnapper being escorted away by officials, hoping it will draw attention away from him. Recalling the man's words, Luke believes the other world's trial will feel like a game. Smiling calmly, he decides it's worth trying since he only has a few months left. His eyes sharpen with determination as the moment nears. The system detects his access, beginning the login process. The system scans and places him in the public area of the other world. Luke materializes in a plaza surrounded by others, some already radiating power. As his body materializes in the other world, Luke's identity is confirmed. His character is successfully created, and he learns he can access his status using his mind. Looking around, Luke realizes he's truly entered the other world. He commands the interface to show his status window. A display appears showing his name, race, and extremely low stats across the board. It details that his strength rating is paper and explains how each attribute works. His inventory is empty, with no abilities or mechanisms, and his strength is rated as paper thin. Luke reacts with disbelief, noting how weak the paper rank sounds. He overhears a nearby vendor loudly advertising a rare green-grade weapon called the Nether Poison Sword. A crowd gathers in shock, recognizing it as loot from a deadly parallel rank trial. Jinda, who is a vendor, confirms with pride that the weapon indeed came from that high-risk trial, listing its poison-embedding effect. One of the players explains that the 4 trial ranks, Paper, Parallel, Strong, and Fierce, offer rare drops, with green and blue gear being highly valuable. Jinda boasts that the Nether Poison Blade is a secret drop from a powerful evil ranked player, starting the auction at 500 points. The crowd erupts into a bidding war, shouting out offers from 500 up to 800 points. Jinda grins deviously, thinking to himself how easy it was to fool them and make a fortune. A strange sound interrupts the scene as someone warns that the highest alert in the public area has been triggered. A warning screen announces the presence of an extremely dangerous person. The system reports that law enforcement has been dispatched. Armored knights appear, revealed to be inquisitors ranked at strong level. A red alert locks onto Luke, identifying him as the most wanted person with an evil rank of 1. Luke realizes that the inquisitors have arrived for him. Jinda packs his items immediately in a panic. The knight pins his foot on the ground, launching himself in the air to attack Jinda, who is running for his life. He notices Luke running and asks if he also committed a crime. Luke angrily asks where they can escape from their pursuers. The system states he's ranked number 1 in the extremely evil list with a 6-star wanted level. A warning explains that at 6 stars, regulation forces will hunt him and subject him to consciousness obliteration, making Luke realize this isn't the game-like world he was told about. Jinda points to a portal that leads to a dungeon trial where they can temporarily escape. A knight slashes down with powerful force, blasting a massive beam towards Luke, while he dives headfirst to the portal and quickly hopes to get transported. A huge explosion destroys the area behind him after narrowly missing his escape. Jinda is thrown away from the blast, realizing that the knights were not after him all along. Luke is assigned a deadly trial with a purple chest reward. Failure means real death. The mission is revealed to be surviving a dating show while holding hands with a heartthrob. Luke is shocked to realize he could really die from this trial. He arrives on stage, greeted by a cheering crowd as the newest participant, while the host welcomes viewers of all identities to the matchmaking show. The spotlight flashes as the host prepares for the show's opening. The host makes a grand announcement, welcoming everyone to the show called Don't Disturb If You Die. Luke questions why he entered the deadly Fierce level trial on his very first attempt. The host introduces Luke to the crowd as the new candidate from human civilization. Confidently, Luke signals to wait and see what unfolds. The crowd erupts, calling him handsome in excitement. The announcer praises Luke's looks and highlights the show's sponsorship by single organizations. Luke is surprised to realize he ended up in a blind date show. He recalls being popular with women and likens himself to a heart stealer. After falling ill, he regrets no longer being able to see his female fans. The announcer reveals Luke is only paper rank, shocking the crowd. The crowd is amazed, noting that it's the first time someone so weak has appeared on a stage meant for fierce ranks. Luke asks the system if there's a description for the strength ranking. He reads that compatibility in the trial is divided into ranks, with fierce rank equating to boss-level compatibility. Realizing he's in a boss dungeon with only 1 life, Luke calls the newbie trial a lie. The host hypes up Luke as a candidate destined for a flashy, dramatic death, until Luke calls out to the glowing figure as Light Bulb. The glowing host replies and is unsure if Luke is addressing him. Luke asks where his blind date partner is, noting he needs her favorability to pass the mission. The host reveals it's just a projection, then prepares to introduce the female contestant. The host announces the arrival of the number 1 female candidate. A tall woman in a tight outfit makes her entrance from the shadows. Miss Soft Red Lips reveals her terrifying face, expressing delight toward Luke as she sends hearts. He stares blankly and overwhelmed by her appearance. The host explains that Miss Soft Red Lips feeds on fear and devours those who admire her beauty. Luke closes his eyes, then forces a smile as he nervously compliments her beautiful eyes. The host announces the next female guest while a heavy foot stomps down. A massive demon-like woman descends called Spira. The host introduces her strange habit of laying eggs in partners who never survive. She strikes a proud pose as the host asks Luke for his opinion. He genuinely approves and describes her as a pretty fair lady. The host is pleased by his response and announces the 3rd female guest. Luke hopes that the monsters don't look down on human endurance. A massive hand suddenly crushes the wall as the guest appears. The butcher reveals herself with her enormous figure. The guest lets out her famous signature war roar while the host turns to Luke, but he can't help but ask how they can call the butcher a female guest. The butcher is disheartened by Luke's question, prompting her to leave the show while the host calls out Luke and gives him a warning for making awful remarks. Luke realizes that their show doesn't have guests who meet normal human aesthetic standards. The host introduces their final female guest, Miss Sloth, a fierce rank beauty and one of the 7 deadly sins. Intrigued, Luke looks forward to seeing her. The host awkwardly waits, then announces Miss Sloth is too lazy to attend and will just watch from home. He quickly moves on and explains the game rules wherein candidates must spend a deep, intimate day outdoors with the female guest. Luke displays his serious expression as he goes outdoors with the guest. Meanwhile, at the public court, Jinda tries to defend himself and explains that he is just a normal dealer. Jinda only ran because he thought he was the target and pledges his support to capture the true evil. The judge confirms that Jinda is not related to the person who ranks first on the extremely evil ranking. The vendor is relieved. However, the judge still sentences him to 200 extreme evil points and takes him to the extremely evil city for forging and selling high-grade equipment. The knight drags Jinda out of the public court as he tries to plead for his freedom. Someone asks the judge if they should still continue to look for the traverser who tops the extremely evil list. The judge doesn't find it necessary since the current level of the traverser will not let him survive the fierce trial. In the wasteland, the butcher sobs over a dead bear. Crying turns to fury as she vows revenge on Luke who insulted her. She suddenly hearts someone lamenting how flawed the Galgame-style favorability system is. A system notification reveals that the first 2 guests view him as friendly while the butcher holds hate. Luke mutters that he didn't expect to offend someone. The system updates and declares that the hate level has now dropped to killing intent. The butcher lifts her weapon with eyes glowing with rage, while Luke doesn't flinch as the ground quakes around him. Still relaxed, he muses about not knowing where the beautiful girl he hurt had gone. Her attack stops, pausing in confusion. He calmly takes another step forward. Luke wonders why her anger hurts like a knife to his heart as he places a hand on his chest. He regrets not seeing the soft and tender heart hidden beneath her fierce appearance. The butcher is touched by the unexpected sentiment. He praises her as a rare woman as he looks at a lone flower. She clutches her weapon and repeats his words as if stunned. The system announces her favorability has risen to friendly. He admits that he missed his chance with someone truly unique. Her heart races as she gazes at him with affection. The system updates again and shows her favorability has risen to crush. He reflects that true beauty lies within the heart. He gently holds the flower and compares it to how beauty can bloom even in darkness. He says the butcher might just be that kind of person. The butcher drops her massive axe on the ground. Luke notices it beside him and turns curiously. She calls out to Luke with affection. The system announces her obsession level has maxed out and allows her to become his partner. A prompt warns that the butcher has developed extreme possessiveness, awarding 500 bonus points. Luke breaks into a nervous sweat. She becomes emotional, saying no one has ever acknowledged her like this. Her eyes glow with intensity as she makes a sudden wild decision. Luke backs away and realizes something is coming. She roars loudly, declaring dominance and addressing the female guests. Luke stumbles back in disbelief, overwhelmed by the outburst. She screams with conviction that Luke loves her. The system shows that tender and Spire's affection has dropped to disgust. The butcher grins proudly, finding the situation satisfying. Luke groans as he is frustrated that her shout ruined his chances with the others. She charges at full speed, calling out to Luke with overwhelming affection. With heart-shaped eyes, she declares they must be together forever, while Luke panics. A white web shoots out and wraps around her leg mid-charge. She crashes face first into the ground, brought to an abrupt stop. Looking up at a spider web above, she realizes who made the attack. A sticky web completely restrains her on the ground. She is enraged at Spira for attacking her. Spira appears and mocks her for being too brainless to keep a man. She claims Luke for herself and says she will properly train him. The butcher furiously protests and screams that Luke belongs to her. Spira towers over Luke and boldly asks if he's willing to bear her child. Luke realizes her affection has dropped and any wrong move could be fatal. He decides his best chance at survival is to take control of the situation. Turning cold and assertive, he demands to know who gave her permission to speak that way. Caught off guard, Spire reacts in confusion. Luke questions if her love is just a cover for wanting him to bear her child. He accuses her of treating him like a tool and demands to know if she truly has feelings for him. She nervously denies it, clearly shaken. Luke sharply challenges her intentions, asking if she even thought about the child's future or his consent, forcing her to apologize in panic. The system notifies that Spira and another guest's affection toward Luke has risen to friendly. Luke notices the change and reacts with curiosity. The crowd erupts in awe, praising Luke's unexpected tactic and how the guests are responding to him. The host announces Luke's powerful argument, now backed by gender equality groups. He notes Luke's words resonated with viewers, just as something catches his attention. The host suddenly announces a message from the elusive Miss Sloth, expressing interest in Luke. Luke remains calm, pondering the meaning behind the second hint. He wonders if more unknown forces are participating in this trial. A voice calls out his name. Tender lunges with her jaws wide open. She smiles eerily, claiming neutrality. Without hesitation, Luke slaps her across the face, rendering the other guests speechless. Luke coldly states he hates insecure people and says beauty isn't for others to judge. She clutches her face in shock, confused by his words. The host stammers in disbelief, unable to process what he just saw. He frantically calls for a replay to confirm the unbelievable moment. The audience reacts wildly as the replay confirms Luke's bold slap, leaving everyone speechless. The host warns the audience that Tender values her beauty deeply, hinting that Luke may be doomed. But instead of rage, Tender blushes, leaving everyone confused. She starts walking, unable to understand how this man is affecting her. She stares at him, realizing his heart is fearless. She is overwhelmed by the sudden rush in her chest. A system message reveals Luke has triggered a rare awakening called Source of Ultimate Evil. He looks at his hand and notes that something unusual has been unlocked. The mechanism reveals its power: max evil value, constant pursuit, mind control through touch, and more. Luke questions if that means the woman is now under his spell. Tender drops to her knees. She admits she's never met a man as incredible as him. Tender screams that she wants to devour him. A system prompt confirms she has entered a bewitched state, and her affection turns into obsession. She lunges toward him, professing mad love and begging to become one. Luke calmly rejects her, confirming once again that none of these people are normal. Suddenly, the butcher gets jealous and strikes her, while Luke notes their intense possessiveness wouldn't allow rivals near him. Tender is knocked away mid-lunge, while the butcher roars that Luke belongs to her. Meanwhile, Spyra appears and claims that in the end he will still be hers. Luke smirks and warns that others might not agree with that. Tender lips and the butcher yell at Spyra to stay away from Luke. 3 fierce-level monsters fight over Luke, but he knows that their definition of love is not the kind he knows of. He realizes that choosing one means the other 2 will team up and doom him, but he will have to face a strong monster alone and won't survive if he waits. Luke hesitates, unwilling to choose any of them. He suddenly questions if this brutal fight is what love is supposed to be. Tender asks what he's trying to say, while the butcher also demands an explanation for his remark. He clarifies that their violent brawl does nothing for his heart. They question if he's planning to give up. He calmly says he's just the kind of guy who prefers to take things slow. He proposes a new plan wherein each of them gets alone time to build a proper relationship. Luke promises that he will choose the ideal partner once he spends time with them. He promises to be a good husband later on, as he plans not to reject their goodwill while not taking a clear stance. He holds one of the contestants and prepares to die by the chosen one's hands. He accepts whatever fate awaits with a calm smile. Tender is flustered by his sincerity. She tells him not to worry and promises to prove herself. Her eyes glow as she vows to be the best person to kill him. There is only 50 minutes before the program ends while a monster emerges from the ground. The creature snarls as it locks eyes with him. Luke lands a strike to its head without hesitation. The ghoul snarls and calls Luke a weak human who is courting death. It lunges forward in fury and bares its glowing fangs. Luke suddenly calls for Tender to rescue him. She appears with rage behind the call and demands to know who dared touch what belongs to her. The ghoul realizes its mistake and tries to beg for mercy. Tender strikes its eye. The wounded monster collapses and drops a glowing item. She hands the item to Luke and asks if he likes her gift. The reward is revealed as a ghoul's eye, a rare material from a fierce-level monster. Luke stares at the eye while the girl dreams aloud about their future together. Jay calmly tells Tender to look at him, saying he has a lot to say. His glowing eyes activate a hypnotic skill labeled Words of Suggestion. She admits she hates it when people look at her like that, as it makes her want to kill them. Jay observes that her violent urges seem driven by instinct. He boldly says she's the purest woman he's ever met, and that her presence makes him want to die in her arms. He adds that the show doesn't allow her to do as she pleases. He explains that the show thrives on drama and pushes her to play a role for entertainment. She quietly acknowledges that he has a point. The hypnotic skill successfully triggers as she clings to Jay, and he playfully tells her that there is a monster ahead. She leaps forward and declares they will find out who dares to scare her partner. Luke smirks and decides to give the show a surprise at its scheming against him. A timer shows that 28 minutes remain in the program. His character card appears and reveals he's level 1 with extremely weak stats and poor perception. A dark figure watches silently. A shadowy form of Tender breaks apart a monster. She murmurs that the man is too tempting and wonders how to devour him later. The system suddenly announces the end of her bewitchment state. She regains awareness and asks where she is. A message reveals her affection has turned into killing intent, and Luke confirms the effect has worn off. Luke uses his magical touch on Miss Tender while she asks him what is wrong. She playfully accuses him of drugging her because his touch made her feel too good. Luke shrugs it off and says he was just thinking about her earlier words. She warns him that they will all end up dead no matter who he chooses. She offers to protect him and bear his children if he stays with her. She warns that she will kill him right away if he doesn't agree, but Luke wants to say something first. Smiling, she asks what he wants to say. Luke asks her that she must guarantee his safety first. She affirms that it's her responsibility. Luke points out that the show only cares about killing and ratings and not love or children. As his glowing eyes activate, the skill Words of Suggestion is triggered. An emotionally enraged Tender yells at Luke from afar. Spira is annoyed after being interrupted by the other contestant. Luke realizes rejecting her may have triggered her to kill him. Tender charges forward. An airstrike suddenly comes her way, prompting her to land on the ground. Tender displays her frustration at Spira. Her expression shifts into confusion, while Spira tells her to go away. Luke says that she doesn't need to worry about him anymore. Tender is frustrated and accuses the other contestant of ruining her plans. She lunges forward and demands that she dies. Razor-sharp webbing suddenly strikes in the air, ensnaring Tender. Tender eyes blaze with hatred. She breaks away using her sharp sword. The blow collides midair with tremendous force. Both girls clash in a fierce aerial battle. Spira grits her teeth in frustration. She mocks her rival and asks if she is serious. Tender plants her blade and demands Luke back with her limbs cut off. Spira retorts and says she's not afraid to fight her. Their battle erupts in a powerful explosion. With 5 minutes left on the timer, Luke wonders if this chaos is what they call demonic beauty. Someone calls out to Luke from behind. Luke turns to see a familiar voice approaching. The butcher arrives and accuses him of abandoning her after choosing between the others. She demands to know if he lied to her earlier. Luke tries to deny her accusation. He is shocked after his limb is cut off in a surprise attack. He drops to the ground with only 10% HP left. He groans in pain and clutches his side. His status suddenly updates and displays his critical state. The butcher tells Luke that he reminds her of someone she once knew. She recalls a time when she was just an ugly butcher and not worth a second glance. But then someone saw her differently and told her she had a kind heart. That stranger asked her to deliver a suspicious package and played on her kindness. She got caught and was chased down for smuggling contraband. She made it alive while his partner thought she was dead already. Her partner was talking to his companion as they celebrated the batch of goods thanks to the ugly butcher. The butcher overheard them and broke down in tears. His companion called her a loyal dog and a useful tool. The butcher gripped the cleaver as the men bragged about using the goods to get any woman they wanted. Violence filled the ground as someone screamed in agony. The butcher tells Luke that the things he told her were similar to what the man from her past said. She grins and asks if she can cut Luke up piece by piece too. Luke smirks and tells her she shouldn't be holding his hand right now. A message suddenly shows that 30% SP is consumed using Extreme Touch of Evil. The butcher is surprised and drops Luke's severed arm. He suddenly activates Words of Suggestion, calmly asking her if she remembers her name. She stares blankly and repeats the question in confusion. Luke tells her that she's fought in 16 death matches and was always called Miss Ample Assets. He says neither the show nor the people around her ever cared about her and only saw her as a tool. The butcher crouches and asks what she should do. Luke's eyes flare red as he commands her to kill. He raises a finger and asks who exploited her, mocked her, and erased her name. She screams in fury, while the other contestants turn serious. The butcher roars and tells everyone to die. The timer shows 30 seconds remaining as the butcher smashes the ground. Luke slams into the ground and scrambles for cover. The timer drops to 10 seconds as his HP falls to 5%. He reaches for a purple limb as he obtains the Abyss Demon Spider's leg. He picks up Miss Tenderlip's arm next, followed by the Ferocious Ripper. The contestants are shocked at what Luke just did. Luke turns away and asks them to enjoy the game. A series of prompts show he's in a near-death state, the mission is complete, and someone's affection for him has risen to heartthrob. The butcher recounts the previous times she competed wherein she experienced nothing but shame. Luke leans in close and urges her to reflect on whether she's ever lived for herself. The host is stunned that all 3 deadly guests who are already veterans have lost control. The crowd erupts in protest, shouting for refunds and demanding violence. The host warns the guests that their actions will directly affect their future participation and ratings. A chain whips across the air at blinding speed as the host narrowly dodges the deadly strike. The butcher rises with rage and launches her chained weapon downward. The guests surround the host and claim that the program might as well shut down now. The audience screams and chants for more as things are getting exciting. The host nervously laughs and tries to hype up the show while hinting at the chaos it might bring. Someone suddenly scolds them for being too noisy. The crowd goes silent, while the host stammers in shock as he realizes the unexpected guest. Miss Sloth arrives at the show, which leaves everyone shocked. She declares she dislikes crowds and gives them 10 seconds. The host stares in confusion while she closes her eyes and starts a silent countdown. Panic erupts as the audience screams and shoves to escape, until the arena begins to clear. The butcher asks her what she is doing in the show. She demands Luke's data while the host dismisses him as paper rank. Her sharp gaze displays, prompting the host eagerly to hand over the data. She murmurs that it's not bad upon seeing the information. She casually waves them off, telling them to act like she was never there. With a flick, she vanishes into a streak of light. Tender realizes that Miss Sloth is interested in Luke. A heavy impact crashes beside the host, sending shockwaves through the ground. The host yells at Butcher, questioning if she's truly going to defy their program. She declares that no one can stop her today. In the main city called Extreme Evil, Jinda wipes the towering walls as part of his sentence. He feels bitter and blames his exile on Luke. A monstrous local threatens him, asking if he wants to be eaten. A grotesque long-tongued creature guards him as he works. The creature warns him that they can eat them if they disobey, while Jinda grumbles about how humans are treated in the city. He leans against a wall and quietly wishes to become like the experts. He stares at a massive entrance lined with glowing names of cleared trials. A list displays powerful trials such as Till Death Do Us Part, which suddenly fades. Jinda is shocked that someone already passed the Fierce level trial. The system announces Luke has completed the Fierce level trial and gained plus 10 spirit points. A prompt informs him he can return to the real world now or explore freely for 1 more hour. Luke decides to explore freely and aims to reach the extreme east gate of the city. He moves his arm and confirms it's fully healed after the brutal fight. He looks up at the towering gate and reflects on how it looks the same as the safe zone cities. Luke opens his backpack and selects the purple chest to check its contents. He finds a rare skill called Descent of the Demon, which enters him into a demonic state driven by ferocity. He analyzes the description and sees it's a high-risk, high-reward skill. Without hesitation, he decides to learn it immediately since it's still a skill. The system confirms that he successfully learns the skill. Luke turns back to the backpack and gets ready to open the next item. Luke inspects a weapon called the Whip of Ferocity, which causes a constant decay in his HP. He's shocked by its brutal design and deadly potential. He opens his current attribute panel, showing he's still a beginner. He tests the weapon, causing fiery energy to spiral around him. He notices his HP is gradually decreasing due to the weapon's side effect. He checks his status again, but his power rating is labeled as strong this time. He remarks it seems promising, but would require healing or resistance traits to manage. The long-tongued monster arrives and excitedly calls him a new toy. In his POV, Luke stands surrounded by the aura of ferocity. Hundreds of ghostly faces surround Luke while he asks what is wrong with the monster as he backs away. The monster panics and quickly apologizes while he leaves immediately. Luke watches him flee. He decides to put the weapon away for now, sensing it's what's causing the disturbance. Jinda sees a newcomer and excitedly asks if he wants to team up. Luke recognizes him and asks if he's the guy who sells gear. Jinda freaks out and yells in shock upon realizing it is Luke. He angrily complains that Luke's actions caused him to be banished to the Red Nain City. Luke calmly apologizes, claiming it's his first time online and that he's just a newbie. Jinda questions how a newbie could trigger the highest level alarm in a safe zone. Luke explains he only just arrived, completed his beginner trial, and was hoping to ask about the other world. Jinda sighs and agrees to explain the situation to Luke. He explains that traversers are spread across many layered safe zones and surrounding areas. He says the fully protected safe zones are trade hubs where violence is strictly prohibited. Paper areas are lightly protected where dying results in minor item loss. Average zones offer partial protection but have dangerous creatures, and dying there means losing everything. Strong level areas have minimal protection, where dying resets your progress. Jinda warns never to choose a high difficulty trial without careful thought. Many who clear strong trials do so only after countless sacrifices. Luke curiously asks about fierce level areas. Jinda explains that no one has cleared them until now, but they're death zones with zero protection from the system. He adds that fierce level zones contain myth-class creatures, and even regular players can't reach them without special access. He's shocked that someone forced their way from strong trials into fierce level ones without knowing that it was Luke, listening quietly and finding his explanation interesting. Jinda says to forget fierce zones since even Extreme Evil City is in a strong level area. He points to the map, emphasizing that dying here is a serious matter. He reassures Luke that by completing tasks and lowering his extreme evil points, he can eventually return to a safe zone. Luke smirks and finds the number of his evil points amusing. His status shows and reveals that his extreme evil points are infinite. A game note explains that in the evil game, 1 to 3 attribute points reflect real-world human levels with 10 points surpassing human limits. Extreme Evil City is a place ruled by bizarre and powerful beings who command respect and fear. Jinda explains that newcomers like them are at the bottom and must take on various tasks to survive. They witness a case in point where a monster invites a passerby to visit his shop. This screams as monstrous claws pierce through his arm in a brutal attack, warning that even passersby must enter and make a purchase. Jinda warns Jay to stay low-key and avoid drawing any attention from the locals. He continues explaining the rules but notices Jay has already slipped away. Jay stands in front of the shop and feels relieved to see one, while Jinda questions if he has lost his mind already. He urges him to leave immediately and warns about monsters. Jinda watches nervously as Jay enters the shop without hesitation. Luke is undeterred by the danger around him upon entering. A goblin shopkeeper greets him and sees a human unexpectedly. Jay requests to buy some healing potions from the display. The shopkeeper smiles slyly and says they cost 500 points per bottle, but it is only 50 each. Jay notices the label and questions the discrepancy, but the shopkeeper explains that humans pay 10 times the price. He laughs cruelly and tells Jay it's too late to back out now. Jay locks the door with a smirk, declaring that he never planned to leave. The shopkeeper tries to question Jay until the latter strikes without warning. The shopkeeper is cut in half and is baffled by the ferocity aura his confusion displays. Luke slowly approaches with his skull-like energy forming around him. The terrified shopkeeper pleads for him not to come any closer, warning that killing him would anger the city lord. Jay calmly asks if the city lord approved his decision to overcharge humans. The shopkeeper freezes in place, followed by his screams of agony as Jay tightens his grip. Jay smirks and suggests that everything in the shop now comes with a 90% discount, which the shopkeeper agrees. Jay leaves the store with the new items while the shopkeeper thanks him as his voice trembles. Jay grins and remarks that he was simply defending himself. He has taken 20 bottles each of health and mana potions for just 200 points. He also acquires a rare specter cloak worth 8,000 points, but now his for only 800. With 4,500 points remaining, Jay soars off and feels like he's starting to enjoy this place. Back to the real world under a quiet night. People line up casually in a convenience store. Max, who completed the strong level trial labeled as Death Train, browses the shelves, reaching toward a row of chocolate bars. A faint glow begins to emit from his hand. A message appears stating there's something he might find interesting as he walks on the street. Max sees a small dog while the messenger states his desire to spend time with his daughter and stay out of trouble. He is suddenly notified that someone has cleared the fierce level trial. His expression shifts with intense focus after hearing the news. Meanwhile, Jinda crouches in frustration, asking Luke how much he got the Spectre cloak for. Luke lies that he got it with a discount thanks to a kind shopkeeper. Jinda doesn't believe him, recalling that he was once charged 500 points for a single potion. Jindali thinks Luke is rich, and he has already hit the jackpot with him. Jindali smiles and asks if he can tag along in the future. Luke tells him that he's not interested in taking followers, but Jindali insists that he isn't like someone who'd settle for being just a follower. He weirdly declares they should skip straight to a father and son bond. Jindali kneels as he waits for his response, while Luke admits he's impressed by Jindali's shameless persistence. Jindali smiles and suggests they add each other as friends. They press glowing fists together to finish the process. A message confirms that Luke has added Jindali as a friend, while the former waves goodbye and logs off, his body fading into light. Luke is astonished at how traversers usually keep in touch. The system notifies him that his time in the other world is up, and he will return in 10 seconds. Luke is back in the real world wearing his old clothes, while the next trial begins in 24 hours. He notes that while 2 hours passed in the other world, only 12 minutes passed in reality. He pulls out a small health potion, confirming that he can actually bring the item back to reality. He gulps down the potion, then throws it away as he walks away. The potion bottle dissolves into glowing fragments. Luke walks past an orphanage and remarks that the place has been noisy today, until he stops toward the building across the street. A group of kids happily welcomes their older friend and asks if he's living a good life now. Turns out that the man is Jinda and replies that he has finally got some lead to a better one. A curious child asks Jindali, while he claims that he's found another rich dad who's definitely loaded. The kids roll their eyes and recall how his last rich dad turned out fake. Jindali scolds them and insists money flows from powerful backers, until he pauses as he sees someone familiar. Luke walks calmly, while the nurses confront him outside the hospital about missing his daily checkup. Luke brushes them off, while the nurses pity him for having a mysterious illness. Before he opens the door to his room, he wonders if the potions he consumed will affect his real-world condition. He enters the room and pauses, seeing Miss Sloth lounging on his bed, and calmly greets him. Miss Sloth continues to lounge while playing a console, while Luke thinks to himself that his symptoms have worsened again. He bends over the table, popping pills for his hallucinations. He admits this is his most absurd hallucination yet, mocking Miss Sloth, who can't clear the first stage of 7 deadly sins. The game is over, prompting Miss Sloth to glare at the screen in frustration. Luke swallows his medication, muttering that she will disappear from his sight in about a minute. Miss Sloth shoves the game console to his face, challenging him to play it instead. Luke feels her, while she stares blankly and asks if it feels real. Luke wonders if his hallucinations have evolved to the point of physical contact. She glares in disbelief that the newly awakened source of extreme evil is not just a pervert but also an idiot. Luke grabs her horn and notes it feels real. The window suddenly opens violently, followed by the power going out. 2 nurses step into the hallway and realize the power outage. A strong wind pushes Luke as Miss Sloth threatens him to act properly. She levitates and prepares to strike. She narrows her eyes as Luke raises the game console and begs for mercy. He pleads for a one-life clear chance with a grin. The power returns as a nurse knocks and asks if he's okay. He tells her that he fell asleep and asks to go away. The game suddenly shows his victory, while Miss Sloth jokes about feeding the game's developer to Cerberus for disrespecting her name. Luke tells her that the design has improved already, explaining that humans associate the unknown with a frightening figure. He bows slightly and uses his charm, while she praises her and notes that he's the first in years to survive the trial. Luke is shocked, while she explains that he couldn't even team up in the novice stage but still performed well. As a portal appears behind her, she warns him to be careful, while Luke asks what the source of extreme evil truly is, if it's tied to his illness, and whether beings like her can enter their world freely. She tells him not to worry and hints he's a special case. She suggests that he works hard if he really wants to know the answers. He admits he doesn't really have a choice, noticing the game console she left behind and wonders if it was intentional. The system screen describes the console as a reward, while he notes that she shamelessly got someone else to play for her. A set of employee guidelines for the Yellow Springs Express warns players not to abandon tasks or disobey orders. A system prompt confirms Luke has entered a strong-level multiplayer trial with total reset risks and blue-quality rewards. The screen alerts him that multiplayer mode is active and anonymity is enabled by default. As Luke approaches the door, a mission appears instructing him to bring his employee handbook to the plaza before the bell stops ringing. He quickly opens the handbook, then opens the dungeon door only to see how crowded the multiplayer mode is. A speaker overhead announces the next instruction, while other competitors also await at the location. The doors close behind Luke as the trial begins. Luke calmly asks the others to move aside as he steps forward, while some players panic and realize even level 3 rookies are here in a strong level dungeon. The doors burst open as someone aggressively kicks them and calls out the rookies. Jang from Azure Dragon Guild appears and tells them never to drag him down. The players notice his ID, realizing he's an Azure Dragon Elite and top-tier expert. Confidently grinning, the Elite says he will carry them through as long as they follow orders. The rookies immediately pledge loyalty and call him boss. His sharp gaze displays, pointing his finger toward Luke. The latter looks up with curiosity. Jang towers over Luke and points out his low level, while he casually replies that he might just be unlucky to get matched into this dungeon. Jang leaves him be as long as he doesn't drag them down. Luke smirks and thinks this run might be easier than expected. Suddenly, a loud strike echoes as Jang is hit out of nowhere. The nearby rookies react in shock, while Jang's glasses shatter. His body collapses to the ground as he dies instantly. A hand holding a revolver appears and welcomes the players, which turns out to be the manager who eliminated the tardy employee. The manager stands atop a staircase and welcomes them again, while the players react in disbelief. He reminds that employees can't defy the manager, which makes Luke realize that rule number 6 grants the manager instant kill authority over defiant employees. The manager explains that their handbook contains 3 delivery orders, instructing them to complete the deliveries if they want to leave alive. The main quest is triggered, which some of the employees find easy. Ren receives his first order, which is to deliver a slap to a Shadow Demon Wolf boss. Panicking over his absurd task, the others freeze in shock, seeing that the employee instantly dies. The manager reminds them of the rule that they can't abandon tasks, telling the rest of the employees to digest the handbook. The manager forgets to remind them of his impatience, but reassures everyone that as long as they follow the rules, they won't be punished. 2 contestants complain about the missions until they hear someone claiming that the task they received doesn't seem too hard. Tian accepts a beginner-level delivery order for dinner to room 306 in the revolving tower. Holding the box, he confidently announces he's heading out first. The two previous men fall silent, while Luke notes that they act fast. Luke notes that the rules only forbid abandoning a mission after accepting it, realizing that they can snatch an easier order from others. A cross-dressing man asks to see Luke's employee handbook, while the latter calmly asks if this is their way of bullying newbies. One of them mocks Luke's low level, while he smirks and asks if they want to trade with him. Luke recounts his time with Miss Sloth as he clarified if sharing extreme evil points boosts the reward level. She warned that doing so would also raise the danger for someone linked to the source of extreme evil. He called it ruthless while she complained about his dull reaction. Luke relents and says he will trade with them, holding out his handbook. One guy is shocked to see a red order, but Luke flips more pages and says it's not over yet. The group is stunned to see a second red order and start to pity him, but Luke states that he wouldn't mind trading with them. A third man yells in disbelief that all three orders are red, while Luke steps forward and asks who still wants to trade. They nervously refuse while the crowd backs away. Luke acknowledges being avoided, while the manager spins his gun. He remarks this is the first time someone received 3 red orders, while Luke asks if he can pose a question. The manager finds him amusing, so he will answer one question while he lowers his gun. Luke asks if his actions were seen as a tactic to scare others into avoiding red orders, suggesting that completing red orders might come at a higher cost. The manager finds his observation interesting, while Luke speculates that he is relieved to see someone as weak as him receive a lot of red orders. He continues to impress the manager, confirming that greater goods bring greater rewards, and asks if he has other questions. Luke declines since he doesn't want his bullet to his head, keeping in mind that he only gets to ask one question. The host smiles as he's been exposed, praises Luke as someone worthy of surviving even a death-till-part trial. Luke proceeds to do his tasks, until a sudden brightness catches him off guard. Max approaches and tells him that he holds 3 blue orders, asking if he can trade with him. Max tells Luke to hand over his 3 red orders since his level can't handle them. Luke quietly senses Max's overwhelming level. In case Luke refuses him, Max confidently challenges him instead. Luke suddenly recognizes Max after Jinda talks about the warrior who cleared the strong level trial. Max demands to know Luke's decision, while the latter flashes his handbook, which pleases Max. The warrior is shocked after Luke rips the red order apart, confirming that he successfully accepted the order. Luke walks away and mocks Max that his hand slipped. Luke pauses after Max asks him to stop, charging him with full force after being insulted. Luke suddenly summons his Ripper, stunning Max. The warrior pauses while Luke questions Max in a sinister tone. Max smirks, suddenly becoming friendly to his opponent. Luke smiles and notes internally that high-level players can sense real strength. The two share a laugh, while they part ways already. Max acknowledges Luke's strength and looks for an easier target, but he needs to deal with the pests surrounding him first. He can't believe that they still want to come after him, which could get their accounts deleted. One of them notes that they can't defy the 3 elders' orders, driven by the hefty reward on Max's head. The latter grabs the enemy's face with his metal hand, shocking the others. Max's sinister aura displays and asks if they are sure about their strength. He drops his enemy after blasting his face, while the others warn everyone about Max's muscle dominator skill. Max confirms with a villainous laugh. He launches himself in the air and warns them that he will take their red orders as his rewards. Meanwhile, Luke stands in front of a gate as he reviews the high-level order details, noting that it looks like a lost and found delivery. The package contains a tattered doll, which was the last thing a girl held before she disappeared. Luke comments about the poor packaging and vague instructions. He looks around and wonders if the so-called mad woman named Luna lies here. Luke presses the intercom, announcing that he has a package for Luna. He waits for a response until a deafening scream replies to him, which startles him. In a rotten ranch, the sinister figure is grateful for his delivery while a pack of wolves growls angrily, while a scared man who is tied in the air is confused after completing his task. The monster responds that adding the man into the food he brought will be enough for them, while the pack of wolves salivates as they prepare to eat their meal. In a temple, a monk expresses his gratitude for receiving a massive bell, while Penny, who delivered the item, notes his absurd way of thanking her. She is surrounded by an army of zombified monks, while the monster tells her that her role is to deliver them into the afterlife. Meanwhile, a low-level order to deliver a love letter completes in a garden. The bride thanks the employee who thinks the task was simple. Another delivery is completed in a gym when a fat guy receives his weight loss pills. The employee notes that low-level orders are easy, while the system confirms the completed orders one by one. Luke complains that high-level orders are different and only left him with 80% HP left after receiving an intimidating tactic, but he is relieved that he has tons of potions. His HP returns to 100%, and he prepares his vocal cords. He asks again if someone is in the order line, until the voice tells him to come in. Luke finds out that the person is a gentle woman and asks her how to come in when the gate is locked. The intercom just buzzes, but Luke claims that he understands what she is saying as he brings out his ripper. He slashes the gate without hesitation, walking towards the gate to deliver the order. Luke announces his arrival as he enters the mansion, shocked at what he witnesses. Luna watches a static television inside a cluttered room, while Luke non-judgmentally tells her that he has a package for her. Luna shushes him as he might wake up her kid named Sasha, sleeping adorably in her arms. Luke compliments Sasha and asks if she can take the package already. Luna suddenly pauses, asking if he is holding Sasha's doll. She becomes confused while looking at her kid, thinking if Sasha is lost or in her arms. Her sinister aura displays as she suspects that Luke is trying to steal Sasha from her. She tosses the doll on the floor, threatening to kill Luke for stealing her kid. Luna charges at him with a sharp weapon while Luke runs away as he drinks his potion. She goes on a rampage as her eyes glare, while Luke rushes to the door. He opens it while she screams at him, but he manages to shut it close right away. Luna slams the door, while Luke notes that the door will not hold much longer, so he starts to strategize. He suddenly finds himself inside a fancy room unlike the previous one, until he sees a door with scribbles, thinking it is drawn by a kid. He suddenly sees a drawing with a note that says she hopes that her mom is always happy, stunning Luke. He also sees a calendar that belongs to Sasha with marks, making him realize how long she has been missing. He flips the calendar until a yellow paper stuck between the pages drops. The note says that they can deliver anything one desires as long as they pay a sufficient price. Luke grins that their manager is giving false advertising while Luna continues to slam the door. She pierces her sharp weapon through while Luke notes that he needs to calm her down first so she can accept the package. He looks for something stimulating for her until he opens a closet and thinks of an idea. Luna punches through the door, finally opening it as she looks for her kid. She suddenly pauses while Luke blushes in a pink dress, cosplaying as Sasha and calling Luna mommy. She questions if she is really Sasha and can't believe how much she has grown, but it doesn't matter to her and gives Luke a hug. His sinister smile displays as he calls her mommy, stunning Luna as he holds her sharp weapon. He suddenly stabs himself as he reminds her that she should have protected her child. Luna falls back into her depression, recalling the time Sasha was drawing in their backyard. The manager suddenly appeared and asked her something, while she looked at him with a smile. She suddenly looked terrified, until she met her tragic demise with the doll as the witness. Her mom went out to get her, only to see the tragic ending of her daughter. She screams in agony as she holds Luke in her arms, while the system notes that he activated the touch of ultimate evil and words of suggestion, hoping that she wakes up from her madness. In a flashback, a voice welcomed Luna to Yellow Spring Express delivery. The manager explained their motto, which was to fulfill desires or even create them when none exist. Luna clutched a photo of Sasha and asked if they'd seen her missing daughter. The manager answered that they have seen her, prompting Luna to rush forward and plead for more information. The manager smirked and reminded her that Yellow Spring delivery came at a price, while she fell to her knees and begged him to help her. The manager raised his glowing hand and demanded her to surrender her sanity, declaring she would make an excellent client. Her face twists in horror as she weakly resists, while Luke notes that she is fighting the effects of the words of suggestion spell. She recalls waking up to find Sasha gone, begging not to wake up from the illusion. Luke comments that self-deception and obsession are human-made tragedies, while she continues to plead not to wake up. Her expression softens as she hears Sasha's voice, seeing her daughter holding her doll. Luna tells Luke to stop pretending to be her daughter, while he congratulates Luna for regaining sanity and reveals she had already awakened long ago. She is shocked and confirms if she has really woken up. Luke explains that the doll was sent by his manager, telling her that there are many paths forward. He gives the doll and asks her to take the package and leave a positive review, until a system congratulates him for completing a high-level order and promoting the man to outstanding employee status. Luke casually leaves her, but she suddenly yells for him to wait, begging to know if her daughter is still alive. He smiles and says she will only know if she goes and sees for herself, until she pulls open a curtain so the light can enter the room, putting the doll on the table while she utters her daughter's name. She tells Sasha to wait for her, while a figurine in her form trembles on the floor, shattering violently into several pieces. The manager picks up the broken figurine, noting that Luna's story has already ended. He He says it's time for the stage play to move on to the next act, asking Sasha if she agrees. She responds with agony in her voice. Meanwhile, a fat client excitedly opens his weight loss medicine in a gym until he sees a meal instead. He sweats in panic after seeing the delicious food, salivating like a hungry dog. He smacks his face into the meal, but his growling stomach is not yet satisfied. He lets out a guttural scream, locking his eyes on the employee. The latter tries to escape the hungry monster, but he gets caught instantly. In a secluded garden, the cross-dressing employee sits on the ground in terror, while the bride notes that she just has one question as the others die behind her. She asks him if he knows who wrote a certain love letter, while the employee immediately denies that it is from him. She crumples the paper and kills the employee. A system prompts that the client has left a negative review, while other employees have died as a result. Max runs in a dense forest and notes that even low-level orders are problematic, determined to gain more advantage by completing high-level orders, but he only has one. His task is to deliver love to a high-level boss named the King of the Abyss. Max suddenly notices the bushes rustling, pausing as he thinks there are monsters lurking. He takes a look at the monsters, but he sees Luke changing his clothes instead. Max is shocked loudly, which Luke notices. He greets Max cheerfully, who is shocked to see his outstanding employee mark on his head for completing his task. Luke playfully explains that he encountered a cross-dressing fanatic who wanted to see who looked better in a woman's clothing. He asks Max to try the dress, but he politely declines. Max suspects that it was Luke who cleared the fierce trial, prompting him to ask Luke if he wants to team up with him. Max elaborates that monsters hunt the workers once they leave negative reviews, so he shows the content of his order to display his sincerity. Luke recognizes the order, prompting him to take out his. Max is surprised to see that they have the same recipient, until something catches their attention. The fat monster goes berserk as he can smell food nearby, while Max tells Luke to go ahead to the location as he tries to hold off the monster. He is suddenly baffled at Luke wearing his cloak and asks him to work with him for a moment. Luke finds it burdensome to deal with high-level monsters, hesitant to reveal his trump card, especially when Max is around, who volunteers to deal with the monster alone while encouraging Luke to go ahead. Suddenly, Max is stunned after seeing his companion, while the fat monster smells their scent. He looks behind the trees where they are hiding, only to see Luke, who transformed into his evil spirit cloak. He shows his sinister grin, addressing the fat monster who attempts to steal his prey. The monster cowers in fear and tells him that he is just passing by, while Luke continues to intimidate him. The fat monster runs away like a baby, while Luke notes how effective his evil spirit cloak is. He tells Max to get up already, who recognizes his strength and asks if they can add each other as friends. They bump their fists, while Luke asks him for healing potions. They both agree that monsters go berserk and hunt couriers if they're unhappy, recalling a past attempt with his old friends where he barely escaped. Luke confidently notes that completing high-level orders is the way to get perfect clearance, which Max completely agrees with. Meanwhile, footsteps pound the ground as others flee in panic, where confused employees are sure that they completed the order already. An evil worm is chasing them, while they note that things are going smoothly until the monster goes berserk. One of them thinks that there is a problem with what they have delivered, which turns out to be a pesticide. The group suddenly see Max, who is also running away, giving them an idea to lure the monster over to his location. Suddenly, they are baffled after Max changes his direction and runs towards them instead. Max crashes into the group as he screams for help, prompting them to react with fear after seeing Luke's evil spirit cloak. He pretends to chase Max, while the evil worm also falls to their antics, prompting it to run away from them too. Luke continues to intimidate his way through, while the group and the evil worm are relieved while hiding behind the bushes. Realizing that they are sitting next to each other, the evil worm continues to chase the group. Max notices that the monsters they have encountered have made way for Luke, who is chugging the health potion to regain his HP. Luke cracks a joke and notes that it is because of his charm, while Max can't believe that he is human. Meanwhile, in a nearby temple, Penny completes the high-level order and gets promoted to outstanding employee. She realizes how demanding a high-level order is after using up most of her resources, although she learns that her previous approach was all wrong. The system notes that they are willing to hire her at a high price to help complete a commission, while she recognizes that the message is from the Guild of the Three Elders. A group of employees greet Penny and praise her strength, while she asks them what kind of commission they have brought this time. The captain responds that their goals are to get a blue-tier item and kill Max, while Penny thinks that the Three Elders are being dangerous and wonders if Max has stepped on their toes. They mention that there is an even more generous offer, sparking Penny's interest. Captain reveals that it is to find the person who cleared the fierce level trial with double the reward, But Penny is more interested in the first job, which is to kill Max. Captain notes that she knows Max and wonders if she will go easy on him, which Penny confirms and shares that they even cleared a high-level trial together. She even owes her life to him, until she initiates a trade request which stuns Captain, while Penny requests them to pay her more for the mission. Meanwhile, Max and Luke have arrived at their destination, but they don't know what the King of the Abyss looks like. They walk over human skulls until something catches Max's attention. A territorial monster with sharp teeth dislikes their intrusion. His intimidating silhouette hangs in a tree. Luke is stunned by his appearance, while the monster jumps and crashes into the ground. He notes that the king hates humans, while Max tells him to calm down and notes that they came to deliver an order for him. The monster suddenly recalls the order and wishes to get his eye back, baffling Max. Turns out that he was the monster that got dragged in the fierce level trial where Luke was. He was full of hatred but did not seek revenge, but Max can't believe his story while Luke feigns ignorance. The monster reveals that he went to the yellow string delivery to retrieve his eyes, telling the employees to leave theirs instead if they don't deliver his order. Suddenly, Penny and her peers arrive at the location, telling Max that it's been a long time. Luke asks if they are enemies, but Max responds that she is a friend but can kill her own dad if she is paid enough. Penny is flattered by his comment, while she notes how generous the three elders are and asks Luke to let her kill Max easily. Luke suddenly tries to negotiate with her, requesting that the two of them fight it out while he leaves quietly. Penny explains that she needs to include anyone who helps Max, leaving Luke with no choice. He decides to deal with all of them, shocking the king and Penny. The monster asks if Luke is not with them, until he removes his cloak and asks the monster if he can recognize him. The king is stunned after seeing Luke's face, as flashbacks of their interaction appear in his mind. The monster lunges at him to attack, while the onlookers think that Luke is an idiot for going straight to the monster. Luke notes that the king is still the same, while the monster stops after noticing something off about Luke. He questions why the king is not attacking, while the monster realizes that he is being lured to attack him. The king suddenly gets anxious and thinks that Spyra is nearby to protect Luke, treating him in a friendly manner instead as he switches teams. The onlookers are stunned after seeing the king become friendly. While Luke asks the monster to help him deal with their attackers, the king responds that there are too many of them, until Luke shows him one of his eyes. He promises to give it back to him if the king performs well, but if he doesn't, he will just give it to Spyra. The king immediately agrees with his condition, when suddenly the system announces that Luke has been promoted to supervisor after completing the task, giving him a resistance from the manager's instant kill effect. Luke is pleased by the king's decision, while the monster lunges at their enemies, who stand in disbelief after the king shifts his target. Luke gently smiles and tells the king to go for it, while the monster slashes them with his sharp claws. Captain's terrified face displays and orders Penny to make a move, but the latter simply ignores her. Penny tells them to hold the monster off while she deals with Penny, but Max lunges at her to attack using his steam rush. A massive explosion blasts while Penny manages to dodge the attack, while she notes that Max is going all out for using a blue-tier skill. Max warns her not to bother Luke, while Penny suspects that he has some ulterior motives with Luke, making her even more invested. Penny suddenly turns into a doll, substituting her body to escape the danger. Meanwhile, Luke espaces the scene while sensing that Max has ulterior motives in getting close to him, but he knows that he holds the upper hand as long as he withdraws first. He suddenly tears another red order, revealing that the task is to deliver a laugh to a recipient named Cry at the Yellow Spring Express station. Meanwhile, the manager notes that Luna found clarity in the mist instead of devouring her visitor, while the King of the Abyss had a change of heart when he was supposed to slay his target. The manager points out that the story is going out of script, and that they now have a supervisor that threatens his power. However, he brushes it off as he takes charge of the situation, noting that actors shouldn't stray too far from their scripts, as multiple low-level orders have failed, while the manager absorbs the amount of evil generated by ordinary employees that is still not enough. A voice in deep agony distracts him, realizing that Seisha is losing her patience already. The manager notes that a supervisor carries a massive amount of evil value, revealing that he is one step away from the realm of fierce level. He waits for his target to be right first, then he will no longer be trapped in his current position. The menacing group lie unconscious, while the King of the Abyss gives them their punishment for crossing them. He acknowledges Max's strength despite being human, until something hits the king, prompting Max to ask him what is wrong. The king responds that it is the Yellow Spring Express. Placing an order with Yellow, he explains that he will be controlled by the manager unless his wish is granted, revealing he secretly made 2 more orders after escaping a deadly dating service. Max calmly reveals that the king's other order is with him, prompting the king to question him anxiously. Max moves closer and notes that delivering love is within his capability, hugging the king without hesitation. He kisses the king to deliver his task, confusing the monster with what to feel, until tears well up his eyes. The system suddenly announces that Max completes the high level, which promotes him to an outstanding employee. Meanwhile, the other monsters run amok, while Luke watches as he hides. He suddenly questions Penny as to why she is following him instead of Max, while she confidently notes that she has to win first. She notes that Max's intentions are unclear and mocks the top 100 players for discarding their morals like livestock. Penny warns that top players like Max have abandoned all limits of humanity and will do anything to clear the game, prompting Luke to question why she is getting closer with him. Penny moves dangerously close and shares her curiosity about how much she is worth. Players materialize like in video games, realizing that they were killed back to level 1. Their disappointed faces display. While Captain can't hide her frustration anymore, she contacts Penny, who is still inside the trial, reminding her to complete her mission, but she is no longer in her friends list. Captain punches her companion out of frustration, realizing that Penny blocked them to steal their bounty. One of them points out that Penny is a top 100 player, while Captain calls them shameless and worries about how she will explain the situation to the 3 elders. Other members rush to Captain, show a video that he recorded. He shares that they encountered a traveler with high-grade equipment, asking if he could be the 3 elders' target who cleared the fierce level trial. Captain finds something to report to the elder regardless if he is their target, immediately informing the guild leader. Meanwhile, at the strong level trial, Penny asks why Luke is running as if she will eat him, noting that she will just trade him for some reward money. Penny also shares that the elders are hunting for the guy who cleared the fierce level trial, and the bounty is 2 blue-grade items. Luke continues to run away from her, until Penny stops him and asks if he could be the elder's target. She confidently notes that his agility is way lower than hers, and he can't escape her. Luke asks what she plans to do if he is the target, while Penny responds that she has a proposal for him. She offers to split the bounty with Luke after killing him as she pulls out her firearm, shocking Luke after learning that she is a gunner. However, Penny immediately corrects him that she is actually a spell caster. Her mechanism is an arsenal caster as she prepares to unleash her Tier 3 spell, shooting 3 beams towards Luke's body. The effect significantly increases his movement and attack speed for 10 minutes, shocking him that it is a positive buff. Penny asks if he is confused why she is not fighting over the mission, trying to fool him with her words to convince him. Luke simply asks her to be honest, to which she responds that he is skilled and the reward is not enough for him. Penny reveals that the only way to clear the trial is to rely on a supervisor like him, reminding him that clearing a trial doesn't have to be perfect and he can run if he can't win. Luke smiles confidently, deciding to return to the Yellow Spring Express as he opens the massive gate. Tears suddenly fall from his eyes, seeing a kid with a chilling wail. The kid notices his arrival, suddenly attacking Luke. The kid's wail intensifies as she exudes negative energy, while Luke asks it if all she could do is cry. He gets closer to the kid and offers to make her laugh, until he pauses and tears fall from his eyes uncontrollably. Luke realizes the kid's ability, while she creeps behind him and notices that he is in so much pain. Luke is stunned, while the kid asks to play with him as he falls into his power. The kid takes a look at his inner world, learning that he was a patient and experienced a lot of pain. The kid asks him what his pain and fear are, to which Luke agrees to show him. He tells him to see for herself, until he looks at the kid with a hole in his face. The kid cowers in fear as she realizes that he is not a human after seeing his painful memories, but Luke responds that it is just an appetizer from his unpleasant memories. A darker aura exudes from Luke as he prepares to show the kid more, until sinister souls which represent his painful memories surround the kid. Luke notes that he finally meets someone to share his pain with, while the kid screams in terror, until she falls on the ground after not handling Luke's pain. The kid runs away from him, while Luke tells him to stay as he is not yet done sharing his memories yet. The kid rushes to his room, shutting the door close. The kid cries in the corner and looks for her mom, but Luke slams the door open, asking why she ran away from him. He notes that he hasn't told him if his pain is special or not, while the kid begs him to stay away. Meanwhile, the manager watches and notes that he likes tragedies, tearing apart happening and savoring the pain. He controls everything like a puppet, while noting that sorrowful memories can break someone down, until his expression shifts into confusion after realizing that the kid is afraid and wonders what she sees. The kid begs Luke to go away as he throws a doll at him, catching his attention. He takes a closer look at the doll, immediately recognizing it. Luke suddenly thinks about Luna, realizing who the kid is in front of him. Luke asks if her name is Sasha, a name that the kid recognizes. She turns to Luke and asks if he has seen her mom, while wincing in pain as memories resurface. Luke asks what is wrong with her as she complains that her head hurts, until a glowing thread comes out of her head, striking Luke, which he blocks with his weapon. He drops to the ground from the surprise attack until multiple glowing threads come out of Sasha's body. Luke blocks the strike and immediately runs away to escape the glowing threads. He pauses to catch his breath, grateful that he still has the buff from Penny which helped him avoid the attacks. He realizes that he just got tricked after his weapon is bound and restrained. The manager comes out and reveals that he set up the threads on Sasha before as failsafe, realizing that Ripper was Luke's trump card, so he decides to take it from him. He apologizes for crying since he is also not immune to Sasha's ability, but he insists that they should remain polite as employees while Luke is surrounded by tons of mannequins. He wails after the manager comes out to inspect his work, but he corrects Luke that he is only curious about him and wants to check in on his employees. The manager notes that Sasha is still a child and a bit unruly, while asking Luke to have a seat as he controls his puppets. The manager refers to Luke as the supervisor and asks if he prefers a different type of communication, but he is only curious about his questions for him. The manager is pleased and highlights that a friendly workplace atmosphere is important. The manager sits down with Luke, noting that demand is the most important thing in doing business. The manager explains that there is success when there's endless demand. The manager shares that Sasha helps him know every client's fears, which he turns into reality. He takes a client who fears obesity as an example, which makes them feel that they need to lose weight. Others fear losing their beauty, so the manager makes them grotesque. This will make them seek beauty and social acceptance all of the time. Max deals with the bride and complains that he still couldn't find his second Yellow Springs order. The manager asks Luke if he knows about extreme evil value, to which he confirms to have a bit of it. The manager explains that it is like a poison that traversers try to avoid, but an experience points to someone like them. He explains that while they get stronger by completing trials, he grows stronger when they fail their missions. Sasha winces in pain while tied in the glowing thread. The manager explains that letting Sasha kill Luke will advance him to the fierce rank, asking if Luke agrees that his way of doing business is profitable. The manager admits his curiosity about what Sasha saw in Luke's mental world, to which he offers to tell slowly. The manager suddenly refuses and notes that not every mystery needs to be unraveled. He shares a human saying he agrees with, that the longer the night, the more the dreams, as he ties Sasha tightly. The manager points his weapon towards Luke to bid him farewell, firing without hesitation. The manager is suddenly stunned as Luke raises the game console which blocked the bullet. He decides to share advice in return. He switches the console on, his energy surges while telling the manager never to assume that his opponent only has one trump card. The manager cowers in power and questions the aura that Luke just emitted as a powerful gust surrounds him and sends his opponents away. Luke confidently summons the supreme existence of the fierce level, but the user he is trying to reach is temporarily unavailable, confusing the manager. Luke anxiously screams after getting stood up, while the manager admits that he scared him for a moment. He orders his army of puppets to attack Luke, but his reaction remains unfazed, striking his enemies all at the same time. The manager is rendered speechless, while Luke holds a mace pillow and thought it was a cheap item. The pillow has a do not disturb note taped on it, while the manager decides to deal with his enemy himself. Luke asks the pillow if it can take on the manager, to which it responds positively. It spins aggressively, while the manager strikes with his glowing threads. A surge of power erupts around Luke, while the manager screams in confusion. The pillow hits his body, barring the manager through the ground. A massive impact explodes, setting Sasha free from the manager's threads, as well as Luke's Ripper. He grabs his weapon, noting that the pillow is insane, which is a purple-quality household item with devastating special effects tied to sleep and rage. Luke's console dematerialized from the game, realizing that a disposable item vanishes once it is used up. However, Luke is satisfied after defeating the manager and decides to deal with Sasha's problem next, while the kid is curled up in the corner. A massive explosion suddenly erupts, followed by glowing threads that lash out at Luke. He instantly dodges the strikes using his Ripper, until his face is cut, which lowers his HP. Luke tries to get away from the strands, unable to fathom that the manager is still alive. The enemy can't believe he's using the trump card meant for the evil association, but he admits that Luke is right that they should have more than one trump card. His threads extend outside the establishment, ensnaring the fat client, making Penny wonder if Luke is responsible for the sudden attack. Meanwhile, the bride rushes to Max, until she is knocked to the ground after her feet are tied with the green threads. Max inspects the establishment and discovers the source of the threads, while Sasha is not safe as well and cowers in fear. The manager acknowledges Luke that he is proven worthy of his full power, noting that settling with a pseudo-fierce level will suffice for him. Luke realizes that he is flipping the table by playing unfairly. While the manager blames him for ruining years of his work, someone suddenly crashes through the ceiling, which stuns the manager. Turns out that Luna comes to the rescue, saving her daughter from the hands of the manager. She lets out a guttural scream, charging at the manager with killing intent. He acknowledges the arrival of his uncontrollable puppet, ready to defeat him with her sharp weapon. She grabs her daughter first, butting the threads with her knife. Luna throws Sasha into safety until the sharp threads pierce through her. Luke is stunned after what happened, realizing that he has seen Luna. He knows that she will not last much longer and needs to complete his order, while Sasha cries in agony in the corner. He calls her attention, clarifying her desire to see a genuine smile. He tells her to take a good look at him as he uses his ripper to draw a smile on his face. Sasha is rendered speechless, while Luke asks her if she is satisfied with the smile that she has been longing for. The system suddenly confirms that Luke has completed the advanced order, promoting him into the deputy manager of the Yellow Spring Express. The manager grips Luna and calls her a pathetic puppet. Noting that her brutal strategy will not work on him, he tosses her away, slamming her body on the wall. As the manager of the Yellow Spring Express, he proudly claims that even a fierce-level being would struggle to take him down. The only problem is that he will need to cultivate a new batch of clients, adding that Luna's evil value is delicious and decides to harvest the rest. He orders everyone to surrender their evil value to him, while his sinister expression is displayed. An error suddenly stops him, informing him that there are currently 2 managers at the establishment and there should only be 1. The manager is stunned since no one can make Sasha smile. Luke playfully apologizes to his colleague as he gets promoted to deputy manager, asking if he is interested in early retirement. His final trial rewards increased by 400%, while the system reminds them of an authority conflict. The manager claims that he understands his opponent, but he insists that Luke still can't defeat him. The manager claims that killing Luke will simply solve the conflict. The latter smiles and acknowledges the logic, until the fat client crashes through the ceiling, while Luke reminds that client's consent is still required. The fat client slams on the ground, while the manager describes him as a mere lower-tier creature. The fat guy activates his berserk technique. His muscles grow bigger and stronger. The manager is stunned, while the fat client grabs and yanks the thread with force, hurling the manager into the air. The fat guy smashes his face with his fist, while the impact sends him flying away from the establishment. Penny watches over the roof as he compliments Luke and asks him to add her as a friend, to which he agrees with. The manager confidently claims that a brute force will not work on him until his face turns shocked after the bride hugs him from behind. She accuses him of causing her trouble, while she tells the officer that it is his turn. Max walks forward, while Luke and Penny talk about how strong he is. Penny warns Luke to close his eyes, while the manager questions Max what he is planning to do. Max explains his ability to make any muscle in his body stronger, asking the manager if he knows what is the strongest muscle in the human body. The manager cowers in fear, while Max claims that no one has survived his move where he uses his tongue. Max's skill levels up as the system notifies, making his tongue a natural weapon which deals 100% physical damage per lick. The bride blushes as she vouches for Max's ability, while the manager panics. He meets his end instantly, while Luke is disgusted and Penny claims that high-level players are all beasts. Max displays his intimate moves, while Luke finds the scene too terrifying. Penny shares that Max's ridiculous moves are part of his 7-cut skill, prompting Luke to ask her what it is about. She explains that it is a high-risk, high-reward ultimate skill capable of erasing 70% of an enemy's health if every strike connects. Max is about to use the final blow, which he can only use once per trial, hitting the manager with his powerful tongue. Penny reveals that she doesn't really want to cross Max because of his weird skills. The system finally notifies that the main quest is completed and the traversers will return from the trial scene. Penny decides to add Luke as a friend, silently thinking that he is more principled than Max. She suddenly questions what is wrong with his mouth, while he responds that it was to bring a smile to a child. Luna sits slumps against the wall, while Sasha walks closer to her while she weeps. The kid questions her identity, asking if Luna knows where she can find her mom. Luna gently holds Sasha's face, smiling gently, and notes how much she has grown. Sasha recognizes who she is, while a flashback of their past floods their minds. The mother and daughter have finally reunited, while Penny can't help her tears from falling. She questions if she has turned into a sentimental person, but Max explains that anyone who gets closer to Sasha cries. Penny is relieved and thought for a moment that she was a good person, while suddenly noting that Luke is strong and they should team up next time. The system notifies them that they will leave the trial in 5 seconds. Max prepares to get transported and wants to ask Luke a question. The countdown continues, while Luke waves goodbye. He stays in the trial while Penny and Max vanish, relieved that they are finally gone. Luke addresses the manager and tells him to stop acting already, shocking the fat client and Luna that he is still alive. The manager questions why Luke hasn't left even after completing his mission. Luke reveals that he is also finding meaning to life and not just passing trials inside the game. He also learns that there is still a mastermind inside the game, and leaving him alive makes him feel uneasy. The system notes that a hidden quest is triggered, giving him two options, wherein he chooses not to become a station master and stay inside the trial instead. An entity realizes that Luke is really different from other traversers until his consciousness transfers into a worn-out puppet and calls him casually. Luke notes that he knows him well, while the entity calls him arrogant. He claims that he knows him very well, noting that Luke can charm his enemies, but he needs to physically touch them first. His weapon can also harm fierce-rank entities, but only if he can hit them. He adds that Luke can even enter fierce-level trials, which means he possesses an extremely high evil value, but he mocks him for being inside a wooden puppet. The entity almost loses his composure, but he immediately realizes that Luke is using his words to trick him. Someone suddenly pierces the puppet's head, which turns out to be the bride's doing after getting impatient. Luke tells them that it is useless as their enemy's real body is not even around, noting that even the manager is just one of his pawns. The entity praises his cleverness and notes that he really deserves to be the next manager, while Luke thinks that the enemy's true form was hinted at in the name of the trial from the very beginning. He notes that the mysterious enemy is the most greedy demander of all, desiring to become truly omnipotent. The puppets start to get up, while the fat client immediately attacks them. A puppet suddenly stops him, while Luna realizes that they have gotten stronger. The entity tells Luke that desire is any living being's instinct. He explains that morality and laws retrain those desires while he only helps to free them from these things. The entity thinks that Luke doesn't have these restraints, which makes him the perfect manager. Luna violently defends Sasha from the puppets, while the entity can sense an extremely vast evil value in Luke and suggests that they work together instead. Luke smirks and knows that the entity only wants him to be like his other puppets. The entity claims that Luke can't use his evil points and suggests that he hands his body over to him instead, but he is mistaken about Luke not being able to utilize his evil value. Luke suddenly summons powerful magic, causing thunder to roar through the night. Meanwhile, other employees are stuck inside the trial while being chased by the giant worm. They can't leave until the order is complete, but they suddenly stop. They spot a silhouette in the sky with long white hair, covered in a sinister aura, and realize it's Luke transformed into a monster. The entity is shocked to see how Luke can use his evil value, while he raises his Ripper to use his life harvest technique. His nonchalant expression displays as he unleashes a power beam on the ground. Somewhere in the extreme evil world, Miss Sloth sleeps peacefully until she senses something odd. She wakes up to a fierce rank aura. A massive crater appears after the blast, while Luna is curled up to protect her daughter. She checks on Sasha, asking her to wake up. A massive boulder slams the ground, while the fat client realizes that he is still alive. The bride cowers in fear after almost dying. They can't believe Luke is responsible for the chaos until someone asks who else could have done it, and their expressions turn fearful. Miss Sloth arrives at the scene, ordering them to tell her what happened. She summons a portal to visit Luke in the human world, while the monsters bow their heads to show respect to her. Sloth suddenly stops, while Luna runs to her desperately, begging her to save her daughter. Luna promises to pay any price. Sloth explains that Sasha's existence was born from resentment, and with its source gone, she will naturally fade away. Luna is in disbelief, while Sloth pauses for a moment, throwing an item to her, which turns out to be a lantern. It is a blue rank item that absorbs soul power, which lets the user draw others' soul power and absorb them. Sloth tells Luna that she can use her own soul to sacrifice for her daughter, implying that she already knows how it works. Luna takes a moment while she looks at her daughter, while her tears stream down her face. Luna places the lantern on Sasha as she returns to her human form and prepares to tell her daughter a story. Sasha also returns to her original form while Luna tells her a heartfelt story. Luna's body glows, hugging her daughter as she slowly disappears. Sasha wakes up from sleep, questioning where she is. Something suddenly catches her attention, while her confusion turns into happiness as she sees her beloved doll on the ground. Luke materializes into the human world, confused about what just happened. He recalls seeing a prompt that the trial was complete after killing the entity, until a disconnection warning interrupts the system, disappointing Luke as he hasn't even seen his rewards yet. Someone suddenly bangs on his door, making Luke wonder who it could be. Monsters suddenly enter his room, while Luke thinks he is having hallucinations again. The medicines shouldn't have worn off yet, but he decides to ignore the monsters as usual. Suddenly, one of the monsters strikes, raising Luke's guards up. He instantly dodges the monster's powerful tongue, but he got a painful scratch on his cheek. The nurses suddenly show up, asking if he is feeling unwell. The nurses did not get a response and wonder if he is having an episode again. The nurse reaches her hand, but all Luke could see are monsters in front of him. He is conflicted if they are just hallucinations. While the monsters act strangely before him, Luke jumps over them and decides to run away instead. The nurses notify the officer right away after realizing that Luke is having another episode again. Luke suddenly pauses, stunned after seeing a tentacled monster. He is pierced through his leg, making him realize that everything is real. Luke instantly summons his Ripper, but it turns out that he is faced with an officer instead. The officer reports that Luke was startled by him but did not sustain any injuries. He asks Luke to calm down, but he instantly escapes and jumps through the window glass. Meanwhile, the kids ask Jinda not to leave them instead, but he explains that he found a place to make a fortune and promises to return. He asks the kids to stay and wait for him until a kid sees someone nearby. Luke is limping from an injury, while Jinda expresses his concern without recognizing him. Luke suddenly displays his sinister expression and declares to kill them, prompting Gina to raise his guards up. Luke slashes his Ripper, but Jinda manages to react in time while holding the kids. He is holding a glowing scroll, meant to help the user to teleport within 30 meters. Jinda tells the kids to run, reassuring them that he will be fine as he holds off Luke. The latter exudes a sinister aura as he walks forward, while Gina realizes how screwed he is. Luke raises his Ripper until Jinda drops his knees to the ground, trying to talk some sense into Luke, whom he finally recognizes. Jinda pauses while Luke tries to resist and tells him to leave instantly. Jinda reminds the kids to escape, but something sinister takes over Luke, prompting him to unleash dark slashes towards Jinda. The latter tries to outrun Luke's attack, while the kids express their worried faces. Suddenly, Luke's attack splits in two, saving Jinda. The latter looks around, realizing that a monster from another world appears to save him. Sloth arrives in time and notes that Luke's willpower is beyond that of an ordinary human, though she is not surprised by the guy she had her eyes on. She doesn't regret giving him the demon descent, while she unleashes a power wave of energy called Soul Repose. The energy falls like snow, astonishing the kids and making them sleepy. They eventually fall asleep, while Luke questions if Sloth is behind the weird things that are happening to him. Sloth did not intend to harm him, but she did not expect that Luke could unleash the true power of the extreme evil source. Luke's vision starts to fade, while telling Sloth that he will wait for her explanation. She promises that she will explain herself, but something bothers her all of a sudden. Sloth notes that she needs to deal with some troublesome fellows in the human realm first. Jinda is baffled by a superpower that renders people unconscious, a high-level demon from another world, and a large magical seal that surrounds the city. He feels like he is not in the real world yet. A cloaked man from the Night Watch appears, walking past Jinda without hesitation. The latter doesn't even know when the mysterious man showed up. All the watchmen, named Simon, greets Sloth, who did not inform them of her arrival. She explains that men from the Night Watch are dull and find them bothersome. Simon politely reminds her that she is not allowed to enter the human world without authorization, but Sloth confidently asks them if they are planning to seal her. Simon admits that there is no way they can seal a demon like her, but politely warns her that they are prepared in case she decides to invade the human world. They are willing to sacrifice themselves in order to defeat her, while Sloth criticizes their self-destructive behavior. Sloth reveals that she doesn't intend to fight them and reveals that she came for Luke, but Simon is in disbelief. He points out that he can't even handle items from another world, but Sloth did not expect that he could misjudge someone. He suddenly pauses, touching Luke's head to further investigate. Simon is suddenly baffled, while one of them tells the other to stop the formation. They immediately leave their post, causing the seal to disappear. They realize that they are seeing a living extreme evil source, while one of them asks Sloth what is wrong with Luke. She explains that Luke triggered a portion of the evil source and suffered a backlash, shocking the men of the Night Watch. Simon still can't believe her, while Sloth opens the portal and tries to take Luke with her. The men of the Night Watch protect Luke, annoying Sloth as she looks at them. Simon warns that he will self-destruct if she takes Luke away, but she just grins silently. Sloth questions if they can protect him, noting that they should know what an awakener of the extreme evil source signifies. Simon removes his cover, promising that they will protect Luke. Sloth rests her case and leaves Luke to them for now, but she stops to remind them to hurry up as the open beta is about to start. Simon is shocked and notes that humans can't face a fierce rank trial yet, but he stiffens after Sloth utters his name. She solemnly explains how the power of humanity has changed since the 6 stars dimmed, and questions the meaning of the closed beta if all the stars are extinguished. Simon calmly agrees and asks her to leave the human world for now. Sloth promises to leave right away as she levitates towards Luke, gently leaning in close to him, giving him a glowing kiss. Simon looks on in confusion and asks what she just did. Sloth replies that she only gave him a buff to temporarily protect his consciousness. Simon instantly tells her to do as she wishes, until a bright magical effect pulses in the air. The other guard awkwardly jokes about how buffs don't always need a kiss. Behind a corner, Jinda peeks and observes that Luke is fine, but he laments misjudging his choice of backing after nearly being killed. He notes that Luke's previous actions were not intentional, wondering about his true situation until someone calls him out. Yujin, one of the night watchmen, asks him not to be afraid. He offers Jinda a power in exchange for a price, but he begs to be ignored as he calls himself a nobody. Yujin warns Jinda that he wouldn't survive even 3 chapters in the open beta, while he screams for help as Yujin drags him off. A quiet cityscape stretches under the night sky. A bulletin board displays crossed-out wanted posters, while Penny lounges in a chair. She frowns that someone is ignoring her messages. She checks her phone and reads unanswered messages asking where Luke is. Her phone suddenly rings and raises her voice as she answers, but her uncle in the other line scolds Penny for being disrespectful. She ignores the man with indifference as she thinks that the Watchmen have disbanded already. The Watchman gives her an urgent mission, promising a very generous bonus. She grins slyly and thinks how helping her uncle suddenly feels fulfilling. At Sacred Heart Charity House, a boy lies unconscious in bed. The doctor notices he's awake while the boy groggily asks where he is. The doctor introduces himself and asks if the boy remembers what happened. The boy quietly turns his head without replying. The doctor reassures him that with proper exercise, he will recover fully. The doctor walks away while someone asks if there are any results already. He reports that the enemy erased all traces again, but assures that he will continue monitoring the extreme evil source. Angels clash with demonic beasts, shouting they will never retreat. A knight rallies his comrades to target the demon god first, while a fiery attack crashes into the enemy from above. But the demon god declares himself the source of all evil. He claims that he is the 7 sins, bestowing his enemies with heavenly punishment. A pillar of light shoots down while someone screams for Luke to wake up. His hand reaches upward, while Luke awakens in confusion. A voice commands the 6 divisions to form the 6 Harmonies demon sealing array, instantly activating in the air. Sloth explains that Luke is seeing memory fragments from a previous awakener of the extreme evil source. Sloth warns that staying longer in his mind risks collapse under the extreme evil source, while Luke asks about the situation in the real world. Sloth shows him a projection of Penny, while his body is restrained and yells in disbelief. Penny scolds Simon while he asks if she knows who Luke is. She admits she knows him but didn't realize he had awakened the evil source. She turns to the side and asks who the blonde kid is, while Jinda nervously observes how close she seems to Luke and wonders if he should build a connection. He smiles and tries to introduce himself, but she coldly replies that who he is doesn't matter. Without hesitation, she fires her gun at Luke, but Simon meddles with her. He chuckles and warns her that she can't kill him, while holding the bullet that she fired. Jinda trembles in fear, while she asks why she can't kill him and reminds Simon how her master died. Simon recalls how Selu and Shang sacrificed themselves years ago to seal the previous awakener, adding that Yanshu was gravely injured and still hasn't recovered. Penny questions why he still defends Luke despite remembering all that, blaming the crippled state of the 6 divisions on the awakeners of the extreme evil source. Jinda politely asks if he can interject, noting that Luke is not the same person who killed her master, so she shouldn't hold him accountable. He explains that the mechanism Luke awakened is the extreme evil source, where 9 out of 10 awakeners die. The remaining will inevitably have their original consciousness consumed, while Jinda continues to defend Luke. Simon solemnly states that the human realm decided awakeners must be executed on discovery, where there are no exceptions and no survivors. The extreme evil source is an unstoppable and irresistible curse, and those who awaken it are doomed to madness. Or worse, their consciousness is devoured and they become monsters. Penny asks Jinda what he would do if he encountered an extreme evil source that had not fully developed yet, catching him off guard by the question. Luke casually answers that he would eliminate the threat early to avoid future problems, while Sloth is surprised that he agrees with Penny. Simon explains that humans are naturally unfit to face beings from other worlds, saying that humans have limited abilities. In past battles against otherworldly beings, humanity was always destined to lose. Simon notes that the turning point in battle was the extreme evil source, recalling it first appeared during their initial clash with invaders from another world. One figure not only reached fierce rank but changed the tide of the war alone. Eventually, both sides agreed to settle future wars through the extreme evil game. Penny is surprised and admits her master never told her any of this. Simon explains it was a top-secret matter within the Night Watchman and adds that the Awakener's consciousness was later consumed, which makes the topic even more forbidden. Things start to make sense for Penny, wondering about Simon's style of sacrificing himself, which she finds unreasonable. Simon scolds her for being disrespectful, while he declares that they must protect Luke now and even if he becomes a monster later. Jinda suddenly interjects and tells them there's no need to worry so much, admitting he didn't understand most of their conversation. He recalls seeing Luke go berserk with his own eyes, noting that he survived only because he showed mercy before Sloth appeared. He nervously suggests that maybe Luke won't be devoured after all. Simon is shocked and asks if Luke regained consciousness on his own, to which Jinda firmly confirms. Simon finds it unbelievable, as no previous Awakener ever broke free from berserk on their own. Jinda shrugs and tells him to ask Sloth, while Simon pulls out a glowing item and says he needs to wake Luke up immediately. Simon offers Jinda a talisman, glowing with a radiant energy. The talisman is revealed to be a life-substituting item that can nullify death once during the trial. Jinda's eyes widened in awe, realizing how valuable it is. Simon explains that the only way to help Luke recover is by strengthening his mental power. He warns that if Luke enters the extreme evil game alone, he will trigger a fierce rank trial. Simon asks if Jinda is willing to help while he looks at the talisman. Simon notes that Jinda and Penny will enter the trial together, while Jinda nervously asks if she will protect him inside. He then confirms if it's okay to run away if things get too dangerous, until someone hits his head, while the Watchman scolds him for being a coward despite receiving so much support. As System alerts Jinda that he will enter the trial space in 10 seconds. He notices that he was given several items while Penny got nothing, wondering if she is just a selfless person who expects no reward. Penny casually confirms her account has been credited with 1 million, while Simon confirms that the payment has been transferred, shocking Jinda, demanding to know why she got money and he didn't. Penny and Jinda disappear into the trial, while Yijun points out how energetic young people are. Simon asks Yujin if he really values that kid so much. Simon recalls how he wasn't even allowed to see the items given to Jinda, while Yujin responds Penny's master has someone to carry on his legacy. He sighs that it would be tragic to die without someone to inherit his legacy, but Simon notes that Jinda is weak, and they may not have time to nurture him. Still, Yujin says that Jinda's mechanism closely resembles his own, making him look forward to the kid's growth. As System Screen announces a fierce rank trial called the Disaster Cage. Jinda looks shocked after learning that his task is to pet a cat, but a massive beast towers over him instead. He screams for help as the beast's claw swings at him. Jinda is trapped as the beast towers over him, realizing that he has nowhere to go. He slams his hand on a control panel in desperation, until a screen reveals that the spirit cat with a fierce rank. Another message displays instructions and background about the containment protocol and danger level. The system continuously notes that the spirit cat becomes hostile once it locks onto a target. Jinda panics and calls for Luke and Penny to help him. Meanwhile, Penny calmly remarks that this trial instantly welcomed her. Another system entry classifies a red aquatic beast as fierce rank with detailed containment protocols. It warns that the red fish-like creature grows more violent when touched inappropriately. Penny is shocked, while the monstrous sea creature suddenly charges toward her. In another containment, it is revealed that Luke is detained. Luke appears on the screen and asks if anyone is around. He smirks playfully and notes that he has finally woken up. Luke tries again to see if someone can hear him, realizing that the other party is not willing to talk to him as his mission to escape the Disaster Association is triggered. He recognizes the association, realizing that he heard it from the manager before. He keeps his guard up since the manager even found the association scary. Luke suddenly learns that there was an abnormal exit last time, and the rewards are being settled for him. Luke's been promoted to acting manager, and his rewards are increased by multiple points, mockingly wishing him a pleasant game. Luke catches the system's tone and demands that it apologizes to him. He forgets about it and takes a look at his new title and mechanism instead. He learns that it is the Constitution that mainly increased, while the enhanced mechanism is the touch of extreme evil. However, he notices that the remarks are a bit cheeky. His title is now an auspicious omen and gives curse to those who will attack him. The containment suddenly opens, while two soldiers with firearms appear at the other end of the door. The soldier calls Luke and demands that he cooperates with the experiment. He politely asks what kind of experiment they are referring to, but the soldier suddenly attacks him. Luke grins and asks him to show a little mercy, but this only angers the soldier more. The other higher-ranking soldier reminds his colleague not to talk to the detainee, They escort Luke outside the containment while he sees the scientists conducting experiments through the window. The test subject begs for help while being devoured by a monster, while a scientist asks if they already have the records after injecting the DK agent into the test subject. They found out that killing 4 researchers has slightly increased their test subject's evil value. Luke understands the situation. Suddenly, detainee 003, who turns out to be Tender, has gone berserk and needs to be subdued, while Luke expresses his confusion. The soldier asks him to keep moving while he places his hand on a sensor. The soldier tells him to get in, discreetly directing Luke to press the button once he is inside. He smiles and thanks the soldier while holding the button in his hand. Turns out it is a small bomb remote control that detonates upon pressing. The captain tells Judas to assist the doctor while he helps with Tender. Judas follows his order, while the captain notes that he is his most trusted subordinate. Judas tells him not to worry and promises that he is the most reliable. Luke pauses momentarily, wondering if the man earlier was their 4th teammate. A system suddenly announces the start of the experiment, while a large centipede appears in a containment tank. Luke nervously asks what kind of experiment this is, while a holograph of a woman named Mimi appears and offers to explain. She explains that the centipede is a brain slug that parasitizes host brains, and after taking over a body, the parasite can breed even higher quality offspring. She says they want to test mass-producing high extreme evil beings and calls Luke an excellent material, thanking him for his cooperation on behalf of the Disaster Association. Mimi suddenly pauses, while Judas informs her that the assigned task has been completed. She asks him what happened with the detainee, while he reports that the team misjudged the detainee's mental strength and caused him to awaken prematurely. Dr. Mimi tells him to handle security while she focuses on another experiment, but Judas has a different agenda in mind as he holds a sharp knife behind him. She suddenly stops him with one last question, demanding to know how Judas died as he lunges at her. A squad of armed soldiers rushes in and orders Judas not to move. He smirks and asks how they figured out he wasn't the real Judas, while Mimi reveals that each staff member must state a code word to enter her room. She also questions what else he did besides injecting the awakening agent to the detainee, while the imposter that his other plan is discovered. A massive explosion erupts in the facility, while the soldier informs Luke's room had been rigged with bombs, and he has already escaped. The imposter points to the sudden explosion as the answer to her question, while Minnie asks him to state his name, to which he playfully replies that she can call him Feng. Gunfire erupts as the guards open fire, causing Feng's life instantly. Mimi instructs all departments to continue operations and prepare Judah's family with a compensation package. A soldier asks whether they should recapture Luke in the containment area. She smirks and says the real experiment begins now as she orders all detainees to be released. The guards are stunned, while Mimi explains that Luke has tremendous value and could unlock the truth of their world. A soldier hesitates, while Mimi asks him the purpose of the Disaster Association. He solemnly replies that they are for the Fireflies, while all the soldiers proclaim their unwavering devotion to the pursuit of truth. In a flashback, it is revealed that Feng was assigned a special identity, where he will enter the trial ahead of his teammates. He would enter spectator mode and would not be penalized after dying, but he would receive the normal death penalty if his teammates fail. Feng, who possesses an eye trainer mechanism, admits that he was careless. He originally wanted to solo the boss, but it turned out that she was a highly intelligent type, but he still managed to set up various buffs for his teammates in advance. He watches Jinda being chased by a massive beast and finds him weak, while he praises Penny, but she looks countered by her enemy. Meanwhile, he thinks that Luke is unlucky after being assigned as a detained item, until something catches Feng's attention. Luke suddenly catches the centipede, uttering profanity as he speaks to the bug. Feng is rendered speechless, while Luke's words of suggestion have been activated successfully. The bug tries to break free from Luke, baffling Feng as he observes his odd actions. Luke recalls that Dr. Minnie said that the centipede can't stand guys with crap in their brains. He proceeds to eat the centipede, shocking Feng behind the monitor. He questions where Luke came from while he feels disgusted. Luke suddenly gains the parasitized status and tentacles as his weapon, and even his attributes have been boosted. His sharp gaze displays until the tentacles come out from his back. Luke is not controlled by the brain slug, but due to the monster's disgust towards Luke, it refuses to control him. The tentacles fall into the ground while Feng screams in deep shock. Suddenly, the army is alarmed that Luke has breached containment, while he prepares for the enemies in his position. Luke charges at the soldiers while they fire at him. Luke's agility helps him to dodge the bullets, striking the soldiers with his sharp tentacles and slamming them against the wall. They question Mimi what they should do next, to which she simply orders them to record. She observes that Luke's extreme evil value is unpredictable, but once it crosses a certain threshold, it can severely distort a life form's logic and cognitive judgment. Luke is pleased that he finally found a power to protect himself, ordering the brain slug to hide its tentacles. Luke negotiates that if it behaves, he will let it out. Otherwise, the brain slug will spend the rest of eternity inside him, prompting the monster to hide itself immediately. Meanwhile, the monstrous fish lunges at Penny, but she evades its strike. Penny grabs the monster, swinging her way on top of it. She mutters that she will need to deal with this nuisance first, until a voice tells her to shout that Fang is the coolest, repeating the bizarre direction. A mechanical voice confirms the password as correct. Fang announces about the Earth Protector and the modifications he did, while Penny lands on the ground and calls him shameless. The monster snarls in frustration as Penny leaps through the glowing Earth display. The monster attacks the projection, but it only crashes into the wall. Fang suddenly criticizes Penny's tone and reminds her to state passwords more factually, but the projector suddenly breaks as Penny tells him not to leave unnecessary messages. Penny inspects the item and notes it might fetch a good price, frustrating Fang after his invention got destroyed. Fang comments that Penny's strength is sufficient and he shouldn't worry about her too much. However, he looks at Jinda and wonders how someone so weak made it through this stage. He asks Jinda if he needs support, to which he accepts. A capsule suddenly drops from the ceiling, distracting the beast on the ground. A massive explosion erupts, paralyzing the target nearby. The smoke clears up while the beast expresses its struggle. Fang explains that he has 10 seconds to defeat the creature and questions the weak opponent matchup. Jinda lands on the ground, prepared to take on the weakened beast with his sharp weapon. The monster stands while its movement is restricted, until it recalls its past as a stray kitten. The kitten flinches as stones are hurled at it, while cruel strangers abuse it. The kitten expressed its determination after becoming a test subject and developed an abnormal aggression and strange potential. A report noted its extreme hostility toward humans in its unusual brainwaves and remained restrained. The beast towers over Jinda despite being paralyzed, while he sighs that the monster finally calms down. Suddenly, a red slash tears through the air. Jinda regrets his reckless move that left him injured, recalling the kitten near their orphanage and wondering where it ended up. Jinda decides to feed him, but he stops already since he starts feeling weak. The beast keeps on feeding, until the system confirms that Jinda completes his task to pet the cat. He immediately escapes until the beast's roar catches his attention. The beast lunges at him as he cowers in fear, but it suddenly glows all of a sudden, transforming into a kitten. Jinda asks if it wants to go with him, to which the kitten confirms. He can't wait to introduce the kitten to Luke while he notices that it looks like the one near their orphanage. Meanwhile, soldiers open fire at their target, who turns out to be a detainee named Madman. He suddenly disappears from the soldier's sight until he grabs one of them while noting that it is Thursday and seeks for 50 random items. The system displays an eyeball, which is the random item that the madman needs to collect. He crushes the soldier and pierces his face, collecting his first pair of eyeballs. The soldiers immediately retreat, opening the door immediately. A soldier cowers in fear and wonders why they can't kill the madman, while one of them is frustrated that today is Thursday. The madman, who must never see time or a calendar, grins with joy after escaping his containment. Turns out that he is a kind old man but becomes violent once he sees anything related to number 4 and asks for 50 random items. The soldier is shocked to learn the madman was held in a top-secret containment only directors can access. His colleague panics after realizing that they have been abandoned. The room sinks into despair as the other soldier realizes they're doomed. A firm voice suddenly tells them to stand up and grab their weapons, belonging to Captain Zeus. He takes out a serum as he plans to distract the madman while the soldiers escape. The soldiers realize that Zeus holds the decay potion and asks him not to use it. Zeus injects it on himself and tells the soldiers to stop nagging. He taps the access reader, while ensuring his subordinates that he will walk ahead of them as their captain. The hallway is filled with unconscious workers, while Luke walks through them and notes that many monsters have been released. He pauses for a moment, sensing a living scientist. Luke's sinister smile displays while noting how much he likes to devour a living creature. The scientist screams in fear and begs to be spared, but Luke insists that he is hungry and needs to be fed. The scientist offers to get him out since he is a director, while Luke reminds him to share important information in the beginning. Luke suddenly asks the director to share everything about the Disaster Association, to which he shares that it is a mysterious organization seeking the truth with influence spread almost everywhere. There is a branch led by Dr. Mimi, which focuses on a critical research mission. Their goal is to uncover the true nature of the extreme evil value, where they capture creatures to study the link between their growth and extreme evil value. Over time, the captured creatures no longer met expectations, prompting the need for stronger specimens. A rare chance arose when ferocious rank beings clashed in one event, which was destroyed in the battle and left one ferocious rank creature badly wounded. The director captured the injured creature, and Dr. Mimi appointed him as the new project leader. However, things changed as of yesterday, as Mimi announced the discovery of a research sample with an even higher extreme evil value and decided to focus all efforts on it. Her decision was final, and she completely ignored him. He rants that Mimi is jealous and questions how a sample with higher extreme evil value could exist. Luke simply listens to the director until he offers a way out as long as he escorts him to Tender. The director reveals that he personally designed Tender's containment. With a smirk, he agrees to the deal and tells them to lead the way. They arrive near the containment, but a barrier blocks direct access to Tender's location. It's revealed that a captain injected himself with a decay potion. Luke recognizes someone who wears a soldier's uniform, but the director dismisses him coldly and says he's no longer human after trying to save worthless subordinates. The mutated captain roars and charges forward in a frenzy, slamming into the reinforced glass with full force. The containment lock disengages after Zeus smashes the glass. Luke questions if he really protected his subordinates, while the director scoffs and says they were just low-level guards and criticizes him for damaging a detained item. The director questions Luke if he can really handle the situation, to which he confidently confirms and asks the director to open the door. Zeus snarls and warns that Luke is dangerous, leaping toward him and the director. Luke manages to dodge his strike, while Zeus turns his gaze toward Luke. Suddenly, he's shot in the head, caused by Penny, who offers help to Luke. The director nervously peeks from behind a wall as he hides. He reassures himself that there shouldn't be any dangerous detained items nearby, until Jinda crouches beside him as he also hides. The kitten sits on his shoulder as it displays its sharp gaze. The director panics as he recognizes the detained item. A magic circle suddenly appears as a fireball is being casted, striking towards Zeus, which engulfs his whole body. Enraged, he bursts through the flames, shocking Penny as he acknowledges his toughness. Luke suddenly grabs her with his tentacles, helping her dodge Zeus's attack. He explains that it is a bond, while Zeus pauses for a moment. Penny notes that Zeus's high jewel resistance makes it nearly impervious to their attacks, prompting Luke to ask her if she has any high damage skills, and she replies that she does, but they're hard to land. He launches him forward using his tentacles, while Penny screams at him in frustration. Zeus grabs her by the neck, swinging a punch toward her. Luke lunges at them, cutting Zeus with his ripper. She holds a glowing item, shoving it into Zeus's mouth. The tentacle wraps tightly around his face, enclosing the explosion inside his mouth. Zeus coughs out smoke, dropping into the ground. Penny thinks that Luke went too far, while he smirks and says it was payback for the shot the creature planned to take. She's surprised he knew, while Luke notes that Zeus still seems alive. He tries to speak to Luke despite his weakened state. 5 minutes remain before the disaster cage dungeon begins, while the system informs all transmigrators to prepare for entry and outlines the mission objective. The reward is 2,000 points of extreme evil value with warnings against sharing classified information. 2 guards comment on the incoming transmigrators, curious about who will appear this time. The captain interrupts and orders them to get ready for the trial. One remarks that preparing is pointless since almost none survive anyway. A guard playfully asks what the others would do if they did survive, prompting them to glance over thoughtfully. One of them admits he wants to leave, saying Dr. Mini mentioned that understanding the truth might make it possible. Another says he wants to see the outside world, curious about what kind of people transmigrators really are. The captain assures the group that he has dreams too and promises to help them survive. He shares that once Dr. Mimi's research succeeds, he will request a long vacation for everyone. Meanwhile, Zeus explains that the decay potion cost him his mind, but it also helped him awaken. Luke tells him to speak first. Zeus asks if he could spare the staff members who were just regular data researchers. A warning flashes not to disclose Internal Disaster Association secrets, but he screams in rage and refuses to fear their threats now that he's already been discarded. Luke suddenly covers his mouth, prompting Penny's confusion, to which he replies he's stripping equipment. Zeus tries to break free, but Luke has him restrained. Luke states he despises moral blackmail, saying he should learn proper manners when asking for favors. Restrained and desperate, Zeus listens silently. He offers everything he has as a plea. Luke acknowledges the gesture and says he knows the drill. Zeus quietly asks if his request will now be granted, but Luke gives him a cold refusal. A mysterious capsule rolls onto the floor, shocking Zeus. A description reveals the drug as panacea, a replica that cures most statuses but causes random side effects. Luke tells him to save his colleagues himself, while Luke clarifies it's just a transaction and wants to know the mission. Zeus pauses for a moment, while Luke says he wants the mission details, but warns not to trigger the elimination mechanism. Zeus nods and prepares to explain. Elsewhere, the director begs for mercy as the beast towers behind him. Jinda suddenly asks Penny what kind of detained item she encountered before, but Luke suddenly returns and tells that they will leave already. He announces that he has a new idea for the trial. Meanwhile, the madman lies on the ground and sits down slowly. With a knowing smile, he says that the situation isn't just about fighting and killing, citing that social grace and human relationships matter too. The group arrive at Tender's containment site, while the director notes that they were lucky that the monster was severely injured when they caught her. Luke points out that the monster still holds a fierce rank while the director opens the containment. The monster sits in the middle of the room, which turns out to be Tender, toying with a soldier. She kicks his face violently, noting that it is supposed to hurt. The director proudly shares that he injected her with a high dosage of decay potion, but she did not show any signs of mutation, until his frustration displays after Mimi disqualifies her from the program. Luke questions how the director plans to control the monster, to which he responds that he just needs to reset the setup in case she rampages again. Jinda panics and feels like they are being sent to their deaths, but the director doesn't have any other choice and promises to support them. Penny is in charge of monitoring the director, while Jinda asks about his task. Luke responds that he will come with him, immediately dragging him to see the monster. Penny warns the director never to try any tricks, promising to cooperate with them since he wants to leave the place too. The guys keep a safe distance from the monster, while Jinda questions what is Luke's plan. Jinda is suddenly wrapped with Luke's tentacles, throwing him straight into the monster. Jinda looks up at her, while Tender stands confidently with a missing arm. Luke calmly greets her, stunning the monster after seeing a familiar face. She lunges at him without hesitation, while Luke confidently summons his skill called Root of All Evil. A magical circle appears while the system searches for an entity who is willing to be his minion. An Amazoness suddenly appears before Luke and blocks Tender attack, complaining about running into a monster the moment she arrives. She turns to Luke as she clarifies that it was him who summoned her, prompting Luke to react with surprise. Amazoness reassures Luke's safety, as she confidently underestimates the enemy, but Luke warns her that her opponent is strong. Tender instantly knocks her back with a powerful strike, while Luke asks her if she is still alive. She exclaims in disbelief while asking what level her opponent is. Tender lunges at her while Luke tells her that they have the same level only if the Amazoness is not nerfed. She gets back up and engages Tender in close combat, complaining to Luke and blaming her loss on being nerfed due to his weakness. Luke steps in and readies his weapon while telling her not to worry. She tells him to stall while he prepares to fight. A glowing device is revealed which is identified as the controller. Jinda is told to press the red button on top until he summons a device, while the director yells at him to hurry up. Jinda smirks and explains that he's actually planting a bomb, prompting shock from the director. A countdown of 30 seconds appears as he demands the key to the upper floors, threatening that the entire place will explode if he doesn't follow. The director claims that the place can't be destroyed that easily, but Jinda challenges him to read its item information. The director panics while reading the information of an extremely dangerous quantum bomb. The director stares in disbelief, unable to understand how they could own such a weapon. Penny warns him to consider the consequences, reminding him of the high-risk sample they captured. The director realizes that they had planned everything from the start. Meanwhile, Luke and Amazoness fight against Tender, while he warns his partner to watch out for an incoming strike. The director hurriedly presents the access card, while Jinda immediately puts his hand on the sensor. Tender clenches her fists in rage as she prepares to strike Luke. She suddenly falls to her knees and screams in pain, rendering Luke speechless. He asks Amazoness if she is okay, to which she reassures him without hesitation. She explains that it's just a fatal wound and praises his bond with her original body. Waving goodbye, she tells him that's all the help she can offer for now. Luke watches her disappear, remarking that she's quite interesting. A system screen reveals details about the disguiser, outlining how the item alters appearances and item descriptions to deceive others. The director slumps weakly, claiming he's given them everything they wanted. Penny holds the keycard and demands to know how to use it, while he instructs her to use the terminal nearby to access the upper level. She scans the card while confirming the location as the system verifies her clearance and begins unlocking the emergency escape route. She confirms it's authentic while the director smirks with satisfaction. He grins wickedly and says it's the only way he could surprise her. Suddenly, a bright grid traps her and catches her off guard. The facial recognition fails and a rescue protocol violently ejects her. She lands and marvels at how advanced the technology is. The director straightens up confidently, relieved he stayed one step ahead. He addresses Luke and reveals that he is the head of the Disaster Association's project and original leader of the base. Luke calmly realizes that his identity was known all along. The director smirks and says he's known everything from the beginning and planned for this. The beast lunges forward as it tries to catch the director, only to bump into the closed door. The director mocks the beast, saying containment measures can't be broken. He grins smugly, proud of the base's strength and preparation. The director boasts about his deep knowledge and control over everything in the facility, while Penny admits the containment is too strong and she lacks the means to destroy it. Penny's expression shifts as she realizes something is wrong, while the director yells in frustration and blames Luke's appearance for ruining his project. He reveals that he planned to capture Luke, who is Tender's prized possession, and pit them against each other. Tender pauses momentarily, while the director declares they will find out which of them is the superior project. Jinda hides behind the beast and asks Luke if he can beat her. Luke doubts himself, asking how he could possibly defeat her, while the director smirks, saying it's a shame Tender is incomplete and wonders how strong she could have been. He orders her to kill everyone, while Jinda nervously considers if he should run instead of facing a ferocious monster. He is torn between fleeing and leaving them behind, until he decides to risk it all and charges forward. Luke clarifies he never said he had to fight her himself. Jinda looks confused as Luke summons Tender Arm all of a sudden. Luke smirks and agrees to show the director her perfect form, prompting the director to stare in disbelief. He throws Tender's arm at her, while her shocked expression displays. She finally regains her arm, softly uttering in confusion as realization dawns. A surge of light envelops her as she begins to recover her true form and strength. A red warning screen blares as the secured central vault is breached. The director panics at her rising evil value, trying to assess the situation on a control panel. He snaps irritably when someone calls him. Penny confidently smirks and shows him a holographic screen and asks him to look. He stares in shock as the projection of the planet Earth looms in the background. The monstrous fish appears as the warning confirms containment measures have failed. The beast breaks through the ground while chaos erupts, coughing and stunned. The director expresses his confusion. He looks up at a woman's silhouette, which turns out to be Tender. He tries to be friendly with her, but she instantly pierces his body with her sharp hand, leaving a deep hole in his chest. Red Alert announces the death of Class A personnel and triggers self-defense mode. Laser turrets emerge from the walls, firing rapidly at Tender. She calmly uses her powerful hair to counter the bullets, while Penny and Jinda comment on her terrifying strength, relieved they managed to escape. Jinda is surprised that Penny managed to escape, but she feels embarrassed talking about it. The director gazes at Tender, acknowledging her as the perfect form for his project. He laughs maniacally, claiming his project is the strongest and that he was right all along. Tender stabs him with a swift and deadly strike, while the director looks satisfied before he completely loses consciousness. He reaches out to her with trembling hands, calling her beautiful, until his lifeless body collapses to the floor. Luke steps in, scoffing at the pathetic resentment over the project being cancelled. Tender swiftly turns with a fierce backhand attack, while Penny and Jinda cry out in alarm, warning Luke to watch out. They freeze in shock after what they see next, where Tender tenderly touches Luke's face, greeting her after a long time. She is stunned that he actually came, while he casually replies that he's just passing by, and she tells him that she understands. Penny and Jinda are confused, while Luke asks Tender if she wants to go with him to meet the person responsible for the experiments. Tender decides to go with him, while Luke is excited to finally meet Dr. Mimi.